The chevron locks echoed through the Cheyenne Mountain gate room with mechanical precision. 1, 2, 3. Each clanged a countdown to something no one at Stargate Command could have anticipated. Alarm klaxons shrieked as the seventh chevron slammed into place, and the wormhole erupted outward in its characteristic burst of energy before settling into the shimmering blue event horizon that connected worlds across the galaxy. But this time, something was different. The gate's inner ring began spinning again, locking additional chevrons in a sequence that shouldn't have been possible with a standard 7-symbol address. "Eighth chevron encoded," Major Samantha Carter shouted from her monitoring station, her voice cutting through the controlled chaos of the control room. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up readings that made no sense. "Sir, this is an intergalactic connection, but not from any address we've ever dialed. The energy signature is off the charts 20 times normal gate activity." General George Hammond stood at the observation window, his weathered face grim as he watched his gate room personnel scramble to their defensive positions. P-90s were raised, aimed at the active Stargate, as the event horizon rippled with unusual intensity. "How is that possible, Major? We didn't dial out, and incoming traffic shouldn't be able to establish a connection through our iris without a proper IDC." "The iris isn't engaging, sir." The technician's voice cracked with tension. "Something's overriding our systems. The gate is drawing power from an external source. I've never seen anything like this." Through the active wormhole, something massive began to emerge. Not a person, not a malp, something that made the reinforced walls of the gate room tremble with its passage. A metallic object, the size of a small building, pushed through the event horizon, its surface gleaming with an alloy that reflected the wormhole's blue light in fractured patterns. Ancient symbols covered its exterior, alongside markings in a language that was distinctly not Goa'uld, not ancient, and certainly not of any civilization the SGC had encountered in their years of gate travel. "It's some kind of device," Carter called out, her scientific curiosity warring with tactical concern. "Scanning now. It's not a bomb, but it's radiating energy on frequencies that match ancient technology." "Sir, I think this is a beacon." The device settled on the gate room floor with a heavy thud that cracked the concrete. Its surface began to glow with orange holographic projections that spiraled upward, and a voice emanated from its core, artificial, precise, and speaking English with perfect clarity. "Attention, unidentified facility. This is an automated message from the UNSC Infinity, currently in emergency transit through unknown spatial anomaly. We are transmitting fleet-wide IFF signatures and requesting immediate communication with local governing authority. Our arrival was not hostile in nature. This beacon contains linguistic data and preliminary first contact protocols. Please respond on attached frequencies. Infinity, actual, standing by." The gate room fell silent except for the hum of the device and the low throb of the still active Stargate. Hammond's eyes narrowed as he processed what he'd just heard. UNSC. United Nations Space Command, words that made sense individually but combined into something that should have been impossible. The United Nations didn't have a space command, certainly not one capable of intergalactic travel through technology that could override Stargate Command's most sophisticated security measures. "Major Carter, get Daniel Jackson and Teal'c down here immediately," Hammond ordered, his command voice steady despite the unprecedented situation. "And someone shut down that gate before." The wormhole pulsed with another massive surge of energy. The chevrons locked again in a sequence that bypassed every protocol the SGC had established. Through the event horizon, something infinitely larger than the beacon began to manifest. The holographic projections from the device suddenly expanded, displaying what could only be a warning. Massive objects in transit, recommendations for immediate evacuation of the surrounding area, and schematics of vessels that dwarfed anything in Earth's current naval inventory. Colonel Jack O'Neill burst into the control room, still fastening his tactical vest as he took in the scene below. "Okay, I leave for one lunch break, and we're getting mystery packages from the cosmic version of UPS? Someone want to explain what UNSC stands for and why they're using our gate like a garage door?" "I don't know, Colonel," Hammond replied, gesturing to the readings that Carter was frantically analyzing. "But whatever they are, they're about to send something through that gate that our facility was never designed to accommodate. Major, can you shut it down?" Carter's fingers flew across her keyboard, executing emergency shutdown protocols that should have severed the gate's connection immediately. Nothing happened. The wormhole remained stable, drawing power from that external source that her instruments couldn't even begin to measure. "Negative, sir. They've somehow established a sustained connection that's immune to our interrupt commands. It's like they've hacked the Stargate itself using ancient-level encryption." Through the event horizon, the first shape began to emerge. It was a ship, no question about that, but unlike any vessel Earth had ever constructed or encountered. Its bow pushed through the wormhole at an angle, revealing a hull of titanium gray armor plating that seemed to drink in the light rather than reflect it. Red and white markings designated sections in that same unknown language, and as more of the vessel materialized into the gate room impossibly, defying every law of physics that governed Stargate travel, the personnel below began to fall back in controlled retreat. "That's a warship," O'Neill observed, with the kind of calm that came from years of facing the impossible. "And, unless I'm very wrong, it's human. Look at those design elements, angular, efficient, military pragmatism written all over it. That's not Goa'uld smooth curves or ancient elegance. That's something built by people who expect to get shot at." The vessel, a frigate, based on its configuration, continued its transit through the Stargate in segments, each section materializing as the wormhole cycled through a rapid-fire sequence of connections and disconnections that would have been lethal to biological matter. But this was engineered transport, something that treated the Stargate not as a mystical ancient artifact, but as a tool to be mastered and exploited. The frigate's full 300-meter length now occupied the gate room and extended into the corridors beyond. Its hull having materialized through solid mountain rock, using a technology that made Carter's eyes widen with the implications. "They're phasing matter during transport," she breathed, her voice carrying the kind of awe reserved for breakthrough discoveries. "Somehow, they're using the gate to create a selective field that allows their ships to materialize without displacing the surrounding environment. Sir, this is beyond our current understanding of wormhole physics." The beacon's holographic display updated with new information. More ships were coming, many more. The gate began its sequence again, and this time, a destroyer pushed through longer, more heavily armed, its hull studded with weapons batteries that would have made the Prometheus look like a patrol boat. Then another frigate, then another destroyer. Each vessel materialized with that same impossible phasing technology, their hulls occupying spaces that shouldn't have been able to contain them, the mountain itself seeming to accommodate their presence through means that defied conventional three-dimensional thinking. Teal'c arrived in the control room, his symbiote pouch glowing beneath his shirt as his immune system reacted to the unprecedented energy signatures flooding the facility. Daniel Jackson was right behind him, adjusting his glasses as he stared at the fleet that was systematically manifesting inside and around Cheyenne Mountain. Jack?" Daniel's voice carried that particular tone that meant he was about to say something no one wanted to hear. "I don't think those ships are coming through the Stargate. I think they're using the gate as an anchor point to fold space around themselves. Look at the way the mountain structure is rippling on those monitors. They're not displacing matter. They're temporarily rewriting local space-time to accommodate their presence." "I understood maybe 3 words of that," O'Neill replied. "But I'm going to assume it means we now have a fleet of unknown human warships sitting inside our top-secret military installation, and we should probably figure out if they're here to say hello or blow up the planet." The beacon's transmission updated once more, and this time the message carried a different weight. "Fleet transit complete." UNSC Battlegroup Echo Alpha 7 has successfully navigated spatial anomaly. 31 vessels now in position around coordinates designated as arrival site. Infinity, preparing to dispatch first contact team to local authority. Please acknowledge and provide landing coordinates for diplomatic shuttle. We come in peace, but we are prepared to defend ourselves if necessary. Spartans are standing by. Hammond's jaw tightened. 31 warships. An entire battle fleet had just materialized in Earth orbit using technology that shouldn't exist, claiming to be human. And now they wanted to send armed personnel, Spartans, whatever those were, down to have a conversation. This was either first contact with a parallel human civilization that had somehow developed interstellar travel independently, or the most elaborate Goa'uld deception the system lords had ever orchestrated. Open a channel to that beacon, Hammond ordered. Let's find out exactly who the UNSC thinks they are and why they've chosen today to introduce themselves. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. Indeed. As the communication channel opened and Carter began establishing two-way contact with the mysterious fleet that now surrounded Earth, none of them could have known that this moment would fundamentally alter humanity's place in the galaxy. The Goa'uld were about to discover that Earth had suddenly gained allies with technology and military doctrine, forged in a war that made the System Lords' petty territorial disputes look like playground squabbles. And Master Chief Petty Officer John, 117, standing ready in Infinity's deployment bay with his Spartan fire team, was about to step into a universe where ancient alien parasites claimed godhood and humans fought back with little more than courage and salvage technology. The war for Earth's survival had just received reinforcements from across the dimensional divide. The System Lords had no idea what was coming. The Pelican dropship descended through Earth's atmosphere with the kind of controlled precision that spoke to thousands of combat insertions across hostile worlds. Its angular hull cut through the air above Colorado Springs, active camouflage rippling across its surface as UNSC sensor systems mapped every radar installation, satellite network, and defense grid within a 1,000-kilometer radius. The locals had primitive detection capabilities, roughly equivalent to 21st-century Earth technology by UNSC historical records, but the energy signatures coming from the mountain facility below told a different story entirely. Inside the Pelican's troop bay, Master Chief stood motionless in his Mjolnir Mark VI armor, the green and gold plating reflecting the red interior lighting as his HUD processed tactical data streaming from Infinity's battle network. 4 other Spartans flanked him, Linda 058 with her sniper rifle mag-locked to her back, Fred 104 running systems checks on his assault rifle, Kelly 087 reviewing approach vectors with the kind of restless energy that came from being the fastest Spartan in the program, and a Marine fire team that looked distinctly uncomfortable sharing space with humanity's most lethal soldiers. Cortana, analyses, Chief said, his voice carrying that characteristic calm that never wavered, regardless of the situation. The AI's avatar flickered into existence on his HUD, her blue form cycling through data streams as she processed information from the beacon's linguistic exchanges. We're definitely dealing with humans, Chief. DNA markers in the air samples match baseline human genetics, and their language is 26th century English with some dialectical drift. But their technology is fascinating. They're using a stable wormhole device for interstellar travel, something we've theorized but never successfully implemented. The power requirements alone should be impossible with conventional reactors. Their military capabilities? Chief asked, watching the approach telemetry as the Pelican began its final descent toward the coordinates the facility had provided. Limited compared to UNSC standards, but they're survivors. The beacon intercepted their communication protocols, and I've been analyzing their database architecture. Chief, they're at war with something called the Goa'uld parasitic organisms that take human hosts and use significantly advanced technology to subjugate populations across multiple worlds. These people have been fighting a guerrilla war against an enemy with superior firepower using salvaged alien technology and sheer tactical ingenuity. Fred's voice came across the team channel. Sounds familiar. Too familiar, Linda added quietly. Parasites, religious zealotry, technological advantage, human subjugation. Replace Goa'uld with Covenant, and it's the same war we've been fighting for 30 years. The Pelican's pilot, Captain Melissa Reyes, veteran of the Battle of Earth, called back from the cockpit. Spartans, we're getting painted by multiple targeting systems. Nothing that can penetrate our shields, but they're definitely nervous down there. Ground-based railguns, surface-to-air missile batteries, and something that's reading like a directed energy weapon integrated into the mountain itself. They've fortified this facility like they expect orbital bombardment. Because they do, Cortana interjected. I've accessed their historical records through the beacon's connection. This facility, Stargate Command, they call it, has been attacked by alien motherships at least 6 times in the past 5 years. They've successfully repelled every assault using a combination of that energy weapon, fighter craft, and one primitive human-built capital ship. They're outgunned, and they know it, but they keep fighting anyway. Chief felt something close to respect settle into his assessment of the situation. These people were soldiers, even if their technology lagged behind UNSC standards by several centuries in some areas, and inexplicably exceeded it in others. We approach as allies, not conquerors. Weapons safed but ready. Standard first contact protocols. The Pelican touched down on a landing pad that hadn't existed in the mountain's original construction, clearly an addition made after someone realized they needed a proper way to receive aircraft that weren't F-15s. The rear hatch hissed open, and Chief descended the ramp with his team, their boots striking concrete as they encountered Earth's gravity for the first time in what felt like another lifetime. The welcoming committee was exactly what Chief expected. Professional soldiers with weapons raised but not immediately threatening, taking positions that provided overlapping fields of fire while maintaining standoff distance. Smart. Disciplined. The man at the center wore a general's stars and carried himself with the bearing of someone who'd commanded in combat, not just from behind a desk. Flanking him were 4 individuals who represented a more interesting tactical picture. The colonel on the left had the weathered look of a special forces operator, his P-90 held with casual competence and his eyes conducting the same threat assessment Chief was running. The woman beside him, blonde, Air Force insignia. Major's Oakleaves was clearly their scientific expert, based on the tablet she carried and the way her gaze fixed on the Nolner armor with barely contained fascination. The civilian with glasses looked like an academic thrust into military service, his body language reading as non-combatant, but his position in the formation suggesting importance beyond combat capability. And the 4th. Teal's eyes narrowed as he studied the Spartans with an intensity that went beyond human curiosity. Chief's biosensor suite picked up unusual readings from the man's abdominal region, something living, symbiotic, generating a low-level energy signature that matched nothing in UNSC biological databases. General Hammond, Chief said, his voice amplified slightly by his helmet's external speakers. Master Chief Petty Officer John, 117, UNSC, Navy. These are Spartans, Linda 058, Fred 104, and Kelly 087, along with Marine Security Detachment. On behalf of Captain Thomas Lasky and the crew of the UNSC Infinity, we're here to establish diplomatic contact and determine the nature of the spatial anomaly that brought our fleet to your coordinates. Hammond's expression remained controlled, but Chief could read the tension in his stance. Master Chief, I'm General George Hammond, Commander of Stargate Command. This is Colonel Jack O'Neill, Major Samantha Carter, Dr. Daniel Jackson, and Teal'c of Chulak. I'll be honest with you. Son, your arrival has raised more questions than I'm comfortable with. starting with how a fleet of human warships I've never heard of managed to materialize inside a top-secret military facility using technology that shouldn't exist. "The feeling is mutual, sir," Chief replied. "Our navigation systems indicate we've traveled approximately 400 light-years from our last known position through a spatial fold we didn't initiate. One moment we were conducting patrol operations in Sector 7, the next moment an artificial wormhole opened directly in front of our fleet and pulled us through before we could alter course. Our scientists are still analyzing the transit, but preliminary data suggests someone or something targeted us specifically." O'Neill stepped forward, his P90 lowering slightly. "Okay, I'm going to skip past the part where you just casually mentioned traveling 400 light-years and focus on the important question: are you actually human? Or is this some kind of Goa'uld trick with really impressive special effects? Because we've seen some pretty convincing false flag operations over the years." Cortana's avatar appeared on Chief's shoulder-mounted holographic projector, causing several of the SGC personnel to flinch. "Colonel O'Neill, I'm Cortana, an AI integrated with Master Chief's combat system. I can provide complete genetic profiles, historical records, and technological specifications to verify our claims. We are human Homo sapiens, originating from Earth, though our Earth appears to be from a different timeline or parallel dimension based on the astronomical data we've collected since arrival. Your year is 2002 by our historical reckoning, correct?" Carter's eyes widened. "You have functional artificial intelligence? Fully autonomous, self-aware AI that can interact in real time? That alone is decades beyond our current capabilities, even with the ancient technology we've recovered." "The ancients?" Cortana's avatar tilted her head with curiosity. "I've been analyzing the technology you used to establish contact with our beacon. The wormhole physics are elegant, far more sophisticated than anything in UNSC databases. I'd very much like to discuss the principles with whoever designed your Stargate system." Daniel Jackson spoke up, his academic instincts overriding military protocol. "We didn't design it. The ancients, a race of humans who evolved millions of years ago, built the Stargate network and seeded it across the galaxy before they ascended to a higher plane of existence. We're just using their technology, trying to understand it and defend ourselves from the threats we encounter on the other side." Chief processed that information while his HUD displayed tactical updates from Infinity. The fleet had established orbital positions that provided complete coverage of Earth's surface. Sensor networks were mapping the planet's defense infrastructure, and Captain Lasky was receiving preliminary reports from science teams analyzing the anomaly. They were stuck here, at least temporarily, and these people represented the local power structure. Building an alliance made more strategic sense than establishing occupation, especially when the Covenant could potentially follow them through whatever had brought them here. "General Hammond," Chief said, "I recommend we move this conversation somewhere more secure. My AI has detected multiple satellite reconnaissance passes over this facility, and some of those satellites aren't broadcasting identification signals consistent with your nation's technology. Either you have neighbors who are very curious about our arrival, or you have hostile intelligence services monitoring this location." Teal'c's expression remained impassive, but his voice carried weight when he spoke. "The Goa'uld have spy satellites in orbit around Earth. They monitor our activities and report our defensive capabilities to the system lords. Your fleet's arrival will be known to them within hours if they have not already dispatched scouts to investigate." "The Goa'uld," Fred repeated over the team channel. "Cortana, priority analysis on threat profile." "Working on it," the AI responded. "But from what I'm hearing, Chief, I think we just jumped from one war with alien parasites into another. The Covenant tried to exterminate humanity because of religious doctrine. These Goa'uld seem to be doing it for sport and ego. I'm not sure which is worse." Hammond gestured toward the mountain facility. "Master Chief, I think you're right. We have a briefing room where we can discuss this situation properly, and where my people can try to explain why your fleet's arrival might have just started an interstellar incident that could get Earth invaded by beings who think they're gods. Let's go inside, and someone get me every available intelligence asset we have on System Lord fleet movements. If the Goa'uld are going to react to our new arrivals, I want to know about it before they dial the gate. As the two groups moved toward the facility entrance, Chief ran tactical simulations in the background of his mind. Parasitic aliens, guerrilla warfare, human populations scattered across multiple worlds through ancient wormhole technology, and an enemy that possessed significant technological advantages but could be defeated through superior tactics and firepower. The UNSC had fought this war before against the Covenant. The difference was that this time humanity had Spartans, a full battle fleet, and 5 centuries of military evolution on their side. The Goa'uld were about to discover that the humans of this Earth were no longer alone, and the System Lords had never faced an enemy like the United Nations Space Command. The briefing room 28 levels beneath Cheyenne Mountain had never felt quite so crowded. Master Chief stood at ease near the wall, his 7-foot armored frame too large for the standard issue chairs, while Linda, Fred, and Kelly took positions that provided overlapping sight lines to all entrances, pure Spartan tactical instinct overriding the supposedly friendly environment. The Marine detachment waited outside, and Cortana's avatar flickered on the holographic projector Carter had hastily rigged to interface with UNSC technology, her presence drawing fascinated stares from every SGC technician in the room. Hammond sat at the head of the conference table, his weathered hands folded, as he studied the Spartans with the kind of assessment reserved for weapons that could either save or doom your command. O'Neill slouched in his chair with deceptive casualness, but Chief's motion tracker caught the micro adjustments that kept the colonel's sidearm accessible. Carter had 3 laptops open, trying to bridge the technological gap between UNSC systems and Earth's primitive computer networks. Daniel shuffled through reference materials on ancient technology, and Teal'c remained utterly still, his dark eyes never leaving the Spartans. "All right," Hammond began, his command voice filling the room. "Let's establish some basic facts. Master Chief, you claim your fleet was pulled through an artificial wormhole from a position 400 light-years away. Major Carter, is that even possible with Stargate technology?" Carter looked up from her screens, where Cortana's code was integrating with SGC databases in ways that made the Air Force officer's eyes light up with scientific hunger. "Not with a standard Stargate, sir. The energy requirements would be astronomical. We're talking multiple ZPMs running at full capacity just to maintain a stable wormhole over that distance, let alone create a transit corridor large enough to accommodate capital ships. But," she pulled up a schematic on the main display. "The ancients built something called a supergate, massive versions of the standard Stargate designed for intergalactic travel and fleet deployment. If someone activated a supergate and locked onto UNSC Infinity's position using ancient sensors we don't fully understand, then someone with ancient-level technology specifically targeted my fleet," Chief finished. "Cortana, assessment." The AI's avatar turned to face the room, her blue form cycling through data visualizations. "I've been analyzing the transit signatures from our navigation logs and cross-referencing them with the information Dr. Jackson provided about ancient technology. The wormhole that pulled us through wasn't random, it was precision-targeted, using sensor data that mapped our fleet's exact position in slipspace. Whoever did this knew where we were, what we were, and how to create a transit corridor that wouldn't rip our ships apart during the passage. Which brings us to the uncomfortable question," O'Neill interjected, leaning forward. "Who has that kind of power, and why would they want to bring a heavily armed battle fleet to Earth right when we're in the middle of a very delicate balance with the Goa'uld system lords?" Teal'c spoke, his deep voice carrying the weight of years serving false gods. "If the Goa'uld possessed such technology, They would have used it to transport their own fleets directly to Earth's orbit long ago. This is beyond even Anubis's capabilities, and he has been augmenting himself with ancient knowledge retrieved from forbidden sources. Anubis. Fred repeated over the team channel. Cortana flagged him in the threat assessment. Half-ascended Goa'uld with access to ancient weapons. Sounds like a forerunner wannabe with a god complex. Focus, Chief ordered quietly, then addressed Hammond directly. General, we need complete intelligence on the current threat environment. Fleet deployments, enemy capabilities, political structures, and any upcoming operations that our arrival might have compromised. Captain Lasky is preparing defensive positions in orbit, but we're operating blind without proper tactical data. Daniel cleared his throat, adjusting his glasses in that nervous gesture Chief's social programming recognized as academic discomfort with military briefings. Master Chief, before we get into strategic assessments, I think you need to understand what the Goa'uld actually are. They're not just hostile aliens, they're parasitic organisms that take humans as hosts, suppress the host's consciousness, and use their bodies to rule over slave populations spread across hundreds of worlds. They've been doing this for thousands of years, posing as gods from Earth's mythologies. Ra, Apophis, Baal, Anubis, these are system lords who command vast armies and fleets of warships using technology they stole from other races. Chief's HUD displayed the biological data Cortana was compiling from SGC medical databases. Parasitic takeover, complete neural override, retention of host memories and personality for manipulation purposes. It was worse than flood infection in some ways at least. The flood didn't pretend to be the person it consumed. How do you identify them? Linda asked from her position near the door, her sniper's instinct for threat recognition engaged. If they look human and have access to the host's memories, standard infiltration protocols would be useless. Carter pulled up medical imaging on the screen. Goa'uld symbiotes reside in the host's abdomen and wrap around the spinal column to access the nervous system. We can detect them with X-rays or MRI scans, but they're also vulnerable to specific energy frequencies. Teal carries a Goa'uld larva as part of his immune system. He's a Jaffa warrior who joined our side after realizing the Goa'uld aren't gods. Kelly's voice came over the channel. So, we're looking at enemy infiltration capabilities, mind control, and an entire slave army that's been indoctrinated to worship their parasitic overlords. Chief, this is starting to sound like the Covenant's faith in the Great Journey, except the prophets were actually in control of their own minds. The comparison is apt, Cortana added, her processing cycles clearly working through strategic implications. But there's a critical difference. The Goa'uld system lords compete with each other for power and territory. They're not a unified theocracy like the Covenant. That gives us exploitable fracture points. Hammond's expression darkened. You're thinking like soldiers, preparing for war. I appreciate the tactical mindset, but right now, I need to know if your fleet's arrival is going to trigger a system lord attack on Earth before we're ready to defend against it. Sir, with respect, Chief said, his voice carrying the absolute certainty of someone who'd spent 30 years at war. Your planet was already a target. Our arrival just changed the tactical calculus. The question isn't whether the Goa'uld will attack, it's whether they'll do it before we're prepared to destroy their fleet when they do. O'Neill's eyes narrowed, but there was something like approval in his expression. I like the confidence, but you haven't seen what a Ha'tak mothership can do. Those pyramid ships can glass a planet from orbit, and the system lords have dozens of them. Your fleet is impressive, I'll grant you that, but we're talking about an enemy that's been conquering worlds for millennia. Colonel, Fred said quietly, we've fought the Covenant for 30 years. We've faced plasma bombardment, orbital weapons platforms, and fleet actions where we were outnumbered 100 to 1. We lost. A lot. Entire colonies burned. Billions dead. But we learned how to fight enemies with superior technology, using tactical innovation, asymmetric warfare, and weapons designed to punch through energy shields that could withstand nuclear detonations. Chief accessed the tactical data Infinity had compiled and transmitted it to the room's display systems. Cortana, show them the Battle of Earth. The holographic projection shifted, displaying the massive engagement that had taken place above humanity's homeworld in the UNSC timeline. Covenant capital ships kilometers-long traded fire with UNSC vessels. Orbital defense platforms unleashed Mach rounds that tore through energy shielding, and longsword fighters swarmed Seraph interceptors in a chaotic ballet of destruction. The footage showed Infinity herself, 5 kilometers of advanced warship ramming through a Covenant cruiser with shields blazing before launching Archer missiles that turned 2 more enemy vessels into debris. Carter leaned forward, her scientific mind racing through the implications. Those magnetic accelerator cannons, what's the kinetic yield? Infinity's primary max fire 60-ton tungsten rounds at 4% the speed of light, Cortana replied. Each round delivers approximately 650 terajoules of kinetic energy, roughly equivalent to your nuclear weapons, but with no radiation signature and significantly better shield penetration characteristics. Our testing suggests a single round would collapse a Ha'tak's shield grid and punch through the hull structure with minimal resistance. The room fell silent as the SGC personnel absorbed that information. Teal'c was the first to speak, his voice carrying a note that might have been satisfactory. Goa'uld's technological advantage has ended. A weapon that can destroy a Ha'tak with a single impact would allow Earth to challenge the System Lords directly. Not just to challenge, Kelly added. Hunt. Those motherships move slowly, right? Sublight engines, hyperspace jumps, but no continuous FTL? Chief, we could run interdiction patterns that would make it impossible for them to mass their fleet. Hammond raised a hand, his command presence reasserting control over a briefing that was rapidly evolving from information exchange to war planning. Let's slow down. Master Chief, I appreciate your fleet's capabilities, but Earth's position in galactic politics is complicated. We have allies among the Tok'ra Goa'uld resistance fighters who oppose the System Lords. We're working with the Jaffa Rebellion to undermine the false gods from within. And we have treaties with advanced races like the Asgard, who've protected us from complete annihilation. If we suddenly reveal a human battle fleet and start destroying System Lords, it could trigger alliances among our enemies or strain relationships with our friends. Chief considered that, running political simulations that Cortana fed into his tactical net. The general was right. Military superiority didn't automatically translate to strategic victory. The UNSC had learned that lesson the hard way during the insurrection years before the Covenant War. Superior firepower couldn't hold territory if the local population turned hostile, and it couldn't win hearts and minds if you were seen as an occupying force rather than liberators. Then we follow your lead, General, Chief said. But I recommend we conduct a demonstration for your enemies, something that shows the Goa'uld that Earth's defensive capabilities have fundamentally changed. Let them see what UNSC weapons can do to their ships. Make them recalculate whether attacking this planet is worth the cost. Daniel spoke up, his academic mind already working through cultural implications. A show of force without actual conquest. Make the System Lords afraid to attack, but don't threaten their territories directly. It's the same strategy the Asgard used with the Protected Planets Treaty. Demonstrate overwhelming power, then offer terms that let the enemy save face while backing down. Indeed, Teal'c added, the Goa'uld respect only strength. If they perceive Earth as weak, they will attack. If they perceive Earth as capable of destroying their fleets, they will reconsider their aggression and turn their attention to other System Lords they view as more vulnerable. O'Neill stood, walking to the projection that still showed Infinity's battle footage. Okay, so we're talking about defensive deterrence, backed by the biggest stick anyone's seen in this galaxy. I can work with that. But there's one problem, Anubis. He's not like the other System Lords. He's got ancient knowledge, and he's been building superweapons that can destroy entire fleets. If he decides Earth's new friends are a threat to his plans for galactic domination, he won't send a fleet. He'll send something we can't fight conventionally. Cortana's avatar flickered with what Chief recognized as intense processing activity. Superweapons. Energy-based, matter-based, or exotic physics? Carter pulled up classified files on Anubis's weapon systems. All of the above. He's used drones that phase through normal matter, satellite weapons that superheat planetary atmospheres, and he's working on something our intelligence suggests could eliminate all life in a solar system. We've stopped some of his projects, but he's persistent, and he's got resources we can barely comprehend. Then, he's the primary threat, Chief stated flatly. The other system lords are conventional enemies. We can fight them with standard fleet tactics. But Anubis represents an existential risk that requires elimination before he can deploy weapons of mass destruction. General Hammond, I recommend we conduct joint operations to locate and neutralize Anubis's assets before he can use them against Earth or our fleet. Hammond studied the Spartan for a long moment, weighing the implications of forming a military alliance with soldiers from another dimension who just offered to help assassinate the most dangerous enemy Earth had ever faced. It was the kind of decision that could save worlds or doom them, and the general knew he was making it with incomplete information about people he'd met less than an hour ago. But as he looked at Master Chief standing utterly still in armor that represented centuries of technological advancement, backed by an AI that could hack ancient systems and a fleet that could potentially turn the tide in a war Earth had been losing for years, Hammond made the choice that commanders had made throughout history when offered an alliance. With a powerful stranger. All right, Master Chief, let's talk about strategy. Major Carter coordinates with Cortana on integrating UNSC sensor networks with our deep space telemetry. Colonel O'Neill, prepare SG-1 for a joint operation. I want you working with these Spartans to assess their capabilities in gate operations. Daniel, reach out to the Tok'ra and let them know we have new allies. And someone get me a comm link to Asgard. Thor needs to know that Earth just got reinforcements. Chief's HUD lit up with mission parameters beginning to coalesce. It wasn't the war he'd expected to fight, but it was the war in front of him. And Spartans never ran from a fight, especially when human lives were at stake. Understood, sir, Chief replied. One more thing, General. When the Goa'uld do come, and they will make sure your people are clear of the orbital space around Earth. Infinity's Mac rounds don't stop until they hit something, and I'd prefer that something wasn't a friendly satellite. O'Neill's lips quivered into something that might have been a smile. Oh, I think we're going to get along just fine. The Stargate activation sequence had become familiar to Chief over the past 18 hours. 7 chevrons, locking with mechanical precision. The wormhole exploding outward before stabilizing into that impossible vertical pool of water that defied every law of physics the UNSC had spent centuries mapping. But familiarity didn't breed comfort. Every instinct the Spartangent 2 program had drilled into him screamed that stepping through an unstable wormhole into an unknown tactical environment was suicide. His rational mind knew the SGC had conducted thousands of successful transits. His combat instincts didn't care about statistics. First time through the gate? O'Neill asked from beside him, checking his P90 with the casual efficiency of someone who'd done this more times than he could count. SG-1 stood ready in their standard tactical loadout, modern weapons, minimal armor, equipment designed for rapid deployment rather than sustained combat. Chief's armor sensors registered their vulnerability even as his tactical assessment recognized their experience. Yes, sir, Chief replied, watching Fred, Kelly, and Linda conduct final weapons checks on their MA-5D assault rifles. The Spartans had stripped down to lighter loadouts for this operation. No heavy ordnance, nothing that would draw excessive attention on a reconnaissance mission to a planet designated P3X-984. Reportedly home to a minor Goa'uld outpost that SGC intelligence suggested might contain information about Anubis's current operations. Carter stood at the DHD, the dial-home device that controlled gate operations, her fingers moving across the alien interface with practiced ease. Dialing sequence complete. MALP telemetry shows breathable atmosphere, standard gravity, no immediate threats detected, but the MALP only covers the immediate gate area. Will be going in without complete tactical awareness. Standard operating procedure, Daniel added, adjusting the pack that contained archaeological equipment alongside his sidearm. We gate in, assess the situation, complete the mission, and gate home. Usually takes a few hours, unless we run into Jaffa patrols, ancient death traps, or highly advanced civilizations that want to dissect us. You know, typical Tuesday. Teal's expression remained impassive as he hefted his staff weapon, a Goa'uld energy weapon that doubled as a symbol of Jaffa warrior status. Master Chief, the Jaffa who serve the Goa'uld have been trained since childhood in combat. They are formidable opponents who will not hesitate to die for their false gods. Do not underestimate them simply because their technology appears primitive compared to your own. Chief nodded acknowledgement. He'd made that mistake exactly once during the insurrection years, assuming rebels with outdated weapons couldn't threaten Spartans. The scar tissue beneath his armor remembered that lesson. Understood. We treat every contact as hostile, until proven otherwise. Cortana's voice came through his helmet's internal speakers, her avatar visible on his HUD. Chief, I'm interfacing with the gate's control systems through the DHD connection. The technology is fascinating. They're using controlled spatial compression to create a stable wormhole by establishing 7 points in three-dimensional space and essentially folding the fabric of spacetime between. Power requirements are massive, but they're drawing energy from somewhere outside normal dimensional space. I want to study this. Later, Chief replied. Right now, I need threat assessments and tactical overlays. Already working on it. I've hacked into the MALP sensor feed, and I'm building predictive models based on SGC historical data for similar planet types. Probability of hostile contact within first hour, 67%. Probability of discovering intelligence about Anubis, 42%. Probability of O'Neill making a pop culture reference I don't understand because I don't have access to early 21st century media databases, 98%. O'Neill glanced at Chief's armor, somehow knowing the AI had said something. Your computer make a joke about me? Yes, sir. I like her already. O'Neill turned to Hammond, who watched from the control room above. Sir, SG-1 and Spartan Blue Team are ready for deployment. If we're not back in 4 hours, assume we've been captured, killed, or invited to a really boring diplomatic function that we can't politely leave. Hammond's voice came through the intercom with that command authority that transcended military branches. Good luck, Colonel, and Master Chief, bring my people home. That's the mission, sir, Chief replied. The wormhole shimmered before them, that alien blue surface rippling with energy that made Chief's radiation sensors spike before Cortana filtered the readings. O'Neill stepped through first, without hesitation, his body dissolving into the event horizon in a shimmer of light. Carter followed, then Daniel, then Teal'c, each disappearing into the impossible transit with the confidence of veterans. Spartans, Chief said over the team channel, stay tight, watch your sectors, and remember, we're guests on this operation. SG-1 leads, we support. Clear? Clear, Fred acknowledged. Got it, Kelly confirmed. Understood, Linda added. Chief walked into the wormhole. The transit defied description. His body dissolved into component particles, shot through a tunnel of impossible light at speeds that made slipspace look leisurely, and reassembled on the other side in what Cortana measured as exactly 1.3 seconds, but felt simultaneously instantaneous and eternal. Every nerve ending reported conflicting data until his augmented physiology stabilized and his armor's medical systems confirmed he was intact. He emerged onto alien soil beneath twin suns, that painted the sky in shades of orange and purple. The Stargate stood on a raised stone platform surrounded by ancient architecture-weathered pillars and collapsed structures that spoke of civilizations millennia dead. The MALP sat to one side, its camera array tracking their arrival while transmitting data back to SGC. SG-1 had already established a perimeter, weapons raised as they scanned the ruins. Chief's motion tracker lit up with blue team's signatures as his Spartans materialized behind him, their rifles snapping up to cover different sectors with the perfect synchronization of soldiers who'd fought together for decades. "Contact," Linda reported immediately, her sniper rifle tracking movement in the ruins 300 meters distant. Multiple humanoid signatures, armed, moving to intercept our position. P. O'Neill's jaw tightened. That was fast. Usually takes at least 10 minutes before someone tries to kill us. Carter? Carter checked her scanner. Reading energy signatures consistent with staff weapons and Zat guns. At least 20 hostiles, moving in standard Jaffa patrol formation. They must have been monitoring the gate. "Jaffa! Cree!" The shout came from the ruins as armored warriors emerged, their serpent helmets gleaming in the alien sunlight. They wore armor that mixed ancient design with advanced materials, and their staff weapons charged with building energy that Chief sensors registered as plasma-based directed energy weapons. At their center walked a figure whose helmet bore the golden mark of command, a first prime, if Chief's briefing materials were accurate. Teal'c stepped forward, his own staff weapon held ready but not aimed. "I am Teal'c of Chulak, once first prime to Apophis. These warriors are under my protection. We seek no conflict with the servants of false gods, but we will defend ourselves if attacked." The enemy first prime's helmet retracted, revealing a dark-skinned man whose eyes blazed with the golden glow of Goa'uld possession. When he spoke, his voice carried two tones the host's voice overlaid with something deeper and more resonant. "Teal'c, the betrayer, your false gods do not protect you here. This world belongs to Lord Anubis, and he has commanded that any who arrive through the Chapa'ai are to be captured and brought before him for questioning. Surrender your weapons, or your deaths will be slow." "Anubis," Daniel muttered. "Of course it's Anubis. Why wouldn't it be Anubis?" O'Neill raised his P90 slightly. "Because the universe hates us, Daniel. It's pretty much established at this point." He called out to the Goa'uld. "Here's a counteroffer. You tell us what Anubis is planning. We don't introduce you to modern military firepower, and everybody goes home happy. Well, not you. You'll probably be dead or unemployed. But we'll be happy." The Goa'uld's eyes flared brighter. "Your arrogance will be your undoing, human. Jaffa, capture them alive if possible. Kill them if they resist." The Jaffa warriors, charged with the synchronized discipline of soldiers who'd trained since childhood, their staff weapons discharged, sending bolts of superheated plasma arcing toward SG-1's position. Carter and O'Neill dove for cover behind ancient pillars, returning fire with controlled bursts that dropped 2 Jaffa before the others could close distance. Daniel scrambled behind the MALP, pulling his sidearm with distinctly civilian desperation. Teal'c's staff weapon spoke with authority, each shot precisely placed to incapacitate rather than kill warriors who might still be turned against their masters. Chief's tactical assessment completed in milliseconds. 20 hostiles, armed with directed energy weapons that could punch through standard body armor but would be ineffective against Mjolnir shielding. Close-quarters combat specialists trained in melee engagement. Standard Covenant elite tactics, but with inferior equipment and augmentation. Threat level, minimal. "Blue team, non-lethal if possible," Chief ordered. "These are slaves, not volunteers." The Spartans moved. Kelly became a blur of motion, her enhanced speed carrying her into the Jaffa formation before they could track her movement. She stripped a staff weapon from a warrior's hands, reversed it, and used the weapon as a quarterstaff to sweep 3 more Jaffa off their feet with strikes that shattered armor and broke bones without killing. Fred engaged 2 Jaffa simultaneously, his combat knife deflecting staff weapon strikes, while his armored fists delivered impacts that sent warriors flying backward with concussive force. Linda stayed back, her sniper rifle cracking with precision shots that destroyed staff weapons in the Jaffa's hands, disarming them without lethal force. Chief charged the first prime directly. The Goa'uld's eyes widened, actual fear flickering across his features as 7 feet of armored Spartan closed distance faster than any human should move. The possessed warrior raised his staff weapon, managed to fire once, and watched in disbelief as the plasma bolt splashed harmlessly against energy shielding that absorbed the impact without the Spartan even slowing. Chief's right hand closed around the staff weapon's shaft and crushed it. His left hand grabbed the first prime by the throat, lifting him off the ground with casual strength that made the warrior's legs kick uselessly. The golden glow in the Goa'uld's eyes flickered with something like panic. "I'm going to give you one chance," Chief said, his voice absolutely level. "Tell me what Anubis is planning, where his fleet is positioned, and which worlds he's targeting. Or I remove the snake and ask the host the same questions." The Goa'uld's voice came out strangled but defiant. "You cannot threaten a god." Chief's grip tightened fractionally, the possessed warrior's words cut off as his airway constricted. "You're not a god. You're a parasite wearing someone else's body, and I've killed things that thought they were gods. Answer the question." O'Neill appeared at Chief's side, his P-90 trained on the handful of Jaffa warriors, still standing, but clearly reconsidering their life choices. "Master Chief, much as I'm enjoying watching you intimidate a Goa'uld, and trust me, it's very satisfying, we should probably get him back to base for proper interrogation. Hammond's going to want intel we can verify." Cortana's voice came through both Chief's helmet and through the MALP speakers, the AI having hijacked the communications system. "Chief, I'm detecting energy buildups in the ruins. Multiple contacts, heavily armed, moving to surround our position. Looks like this was a trap. They had reinforcements waiting." Teal'c's expression darkened as he surveyed the ruins where additional Jaffa warriors were emerging, these better armed and moving with the precision of elite guards. "Death gliders overhead," he announced, pointing skyward where 2 Goa'uld fighters screamed past, their weapons charging for strafing runs. Carter swore creatively as her scanner lit up. "Those aren't standard patrols. That's a full security detachment, 40, maybe 50 Jaffa, and the gliders are armed with staff cannons that can level this platform. We need to fall back to the gate now." Gliders. Chief's HUD painted tactical overlays that confirmed Carter's assessment. They were outnumbered. The enemy held air superiority, and retreating through unknown terrain would expose them to coordinated ambush. Standard doctrine said withdraw to defensible position and call for extraction. But the gate was their extraction, and it was currently surrounded by enemy forces that would be in optimal firing positions if SG-1 tried to dial home. "Fred, clear the gate platform," Chief ordered, hurling the first prime toward his fellow Spartan. "Kelly, take the north approach. Linda, I need those gliders grounded. O'Neill, dial home on my mark. You're going to fight 40 Jaffa warriors and 2 fighter craft, so we can retreat?" O'Neill asked incredulously. "That's the mission," Chief replied, his assault rifle coming up as the reinforcements closed distance. "Get your people home, Colonel. We'll be right behind you." What O'Neill saw in that moment, in the stance of a soldier who'd made a career of impossible odds, made the colonel nod once in recognition of something he understood at a fundamental level. Sometimes you held the line because people behind you needed time to get clear. It's what soldiers did. "Teal'c, Daniel, Carter Gate now," O'Neill barked. "SG-1 moves, Spartans cover." The death gliders screamed down for their attack run. Linda's sniper rifle spoke twice, and both fighters tumbled from the sky in balls of superheated metal as impossibly precise rounds punched through their cockpits. The Jaffa reinforcements charged with war cries that echoed through the ruins, and 4 Spartans stood their ground while SG-1 ran for the gate, because that's what heroes did when others needed time to survive. The battle for P3X-984 had begun. The Jaffa warriors crashed against the Spartan defensive line like waves against titanium bulkheads. The chief's assault rifle barked in controlled bursts, each round precisely placed to disable rather than kill. Kneecaps shattered, weapon arms ruined, armor joints compromised. Behind him, Carter's fingers flew across the DHD interface, dialing the 7-symbol sequence that would connect them back to Earth, while O'Neill and Daniel provided covering fire against the enemies attempting to flank their position. Fred had become a wall of armor and violence at the gate platform's northern approach. His combat knife deflected staff weapon strikes with casual precision, while his free hand delivered strikes that sent Jaffa flying backward with broken ribs and shattered armor plates. 3 warriors tried to overwhelm him simultaneously. He caught one by the helmet, used the warrior as a bludgeon against the second, and kicked the third hard enough to send him tumbling down the platform's stone steps. Kelly moved through the Jaffa ranks like a storm given human form. Her augmented speed made her effectively invisible to enemies trained to fight normal humans. She was behind warriors before they registered movement, disarming them with strikes too fast to counter, breaking formations with surgical precision. A Jaffa commander tried to organize his troops into a firing line. Kelly removed him from the equation with a sweep that took his legs out and a follow-up strike that cracked his helmet. Linda had taken position on elevated ruins 50 meters from the gate, her sniper rifle systematically eliminating any Jaffa who tried to bring heavy weapons to bear. A warrior attempted to set up what looked like a crew-served staff cannon. Linda's round destroyed the weapon before it could charge. Another Jaffa reached for a communication device to call for more reinforcements. The device exploded in his hand from a round that left the warrior alive but very motivated to reconsider his career choices. Chevron 7 encoded, Carter shouted as the wormhole burst into existence behind them. Gates open, 30 seconds until we can establish a lock. Chief's motion tracker lit up with new contacts, more Jaffa pouring from the ruins, and these carried the golden armor of elite guards sworn directly to system lords. Anubis had been expecting trouble, and he'd prepared accordingly. Blue team, fighting withdrawal. Linda, collapse and move. The sniper was already in motion, her rifle mag-locked to her back as she vaulted from her position and sprinted for the gate with speed that made the pursuing Jaffa's shots miss by meters. Plasma bolts carved through empty air where she'd been, and by the time they adjusted their aim, she was behind cover with her rifle already tracking new targets. Teal'c stood at the base of the event horizon, his staff weapon providing disciplined covering fire while SG-1 prepared to step through. But his eyes tracked the Spartans' movements with an intensity that went beyond tactical assessment. This was a warrior, recognizing something in other warriors, seeing in their fluid coordination and absolute efficiency the kind of teamwork that came from decades of shared combat. Daniel, go! O'Neill ordered, pushing the archaeologist toward the wormhole. Daniel stumbled through the event horizon with a last look at the chaos erupting around the gate platform. Carter, you're next. Sir, the Spartans will be fine because they're scary, efficient, and I'm more worried about Hammond shooting me if I leave his science officer behind. Move, Major. Carter stepped through the wormhole, her expression conflicted but her discipline overriding the instinct to stay and fight. O'Neill followed, then Teal'c, each disappearing into the shimmering blue surface until only the Spartans remained on an alien world with 40 hostile warriors closing distance and the possibility of air support arriving at any moment. Chief, we've got incoming. Cortana's warning coincided with Chief's motion tracker painting new aerial contacts. Not death gliders this time, something bigger, slower, and broadcasting energy signatures consistent with Goa'uld troop transports, Teltox, if his briefing materials were accurate. ships designed to deliver reinforcements via ring transporters that could beam warriors directly into combat zones. "Time to go," Chief stated, his rifle still tracking targets as he backed toward the gate. "Fred, Kelly, collapse on my position. Linda, you're through first." The sniper didn't argue, sprinting for the event horizon and diving through with a kind of trust that only came from knowing your team leader would follow. Fred came next, moving backward with his rifle providing suppressive fire that kept the Jaffa honest about pursuing too closely. Kelly danced through plasma bolts with superhuman agility, her shields flaring twice from glancing hits before she reached the platform and somersaulted through the wormhole with acrobatic grace. Chief was the last Spartan standing on P3X 984, 40 meters from the gate, with approximately 30 Jaffa warriors between him and extraction. The Teltok transport ships were descending, their ring transporters already beginning the activation sequence that would deposit fresh troops directly onto the battlefield. Standard doctrine said, retreat immediately. Every tactical simulation said staying another second risked capture or worse. But Chief's sensors had detected something during the firefight, energy signatures coming from beneath the ancient ruins, power readings that matched the briefing materials on Anubis's experimental weapon systems. This wasn't just a garrison outpost. This was a research facility, and whatever Anubis was developing here was important enough to guard with elite troops and rapid response air support. "Cortana, can you access their systems from here?" Chief asked, his rifle tracking the first prime he'd captured earlier now recovered and shouting orders to his warriors with the kind of fury that came from being humiliated by an enemy. "Not without direct access to their computer network," the AI replied. "But Chief, those transport ships are 20 seconds from deployment. If you're thinking about raiding their facility, now is really not the time." Agreed. Chief hurled a flashbang grenade into the advancing Jaffa Formation Standard UNSC ordnance that erupted with concussive force and blinding light, sending warriors stumbling with their enhanced hearing and vision temporarily overwhelmed. He sprinted for the gate, his shields absorbing 3 plasma bolts that would have killed an unarmored human, and dove through the event horizon as the ring transporters activated behind him. The transit through the wormhole felt different. The second time his nervous system had adapted to the impossible physics, and Cortana was filtering the sensory data to reduce the disorientation. He emerged in the SGC gate room traveling at combat velocity, rolled to absorb the momentum, and came up with his rifle raised until his HUD confirmed he was surrounded by friendlies. "Incoming Traveler Spartan IFF confirmed." The gate technician's voice carried relief. "That's all of them, sir. Close the iris." The titanium barrier slammed shut across the event horizon 3 seconds before the first Jaffa warrior would have emerged. There was a wet thud against the iris as something tried to materialize and was instead reduced to component atoms by the barrier-positioned micrometers from the wormhole's event horizon. Several more thuds followed warriors trying to pursue without realizing the gate was sealed before the wormhole finally disengaged. Hammond stood in the control room, his expression caught between relief and anger. "Colonel O'Neill, would you care to explain why a routine reconnaissance mission turned into a firefight that nearly got both teams captured?" O'Neill descended from the gate room, holstering his P90 with the casual manner of someone who'd had this conversation before. "Sir, in my defense, we gathered valuable intelligence. Specifically, we learned that Anubis knows about our new friends, and he's very interested in capturing them for study. We also learned that Master Chief can choke out a Goa'uld with one hand while looking like he's barely paying attention, which I found educational." Chief and Blue Team descended from the platform, their armor showing scorch marks from plasma impacts, but otherwise undamaged. The Spartans conducted immediate post-combat checks, weapons safed, shields recharging, armor diagnostics running automatically, while they assessed the tactical situation they'd extracted from. Dr. Fraser emerged from the medical bay with her team, scanners raised to assess injuries. She stopped short when the Spartans removed their helmets, revealing the faces of soldiers who looked far younger than their combat efficiency suggested, but whose eyes carried the weight of decades at war. I need to run medical scans to ensure the gate transit didn't cause biological complications. We're fine, Doctor, Chief replied, though he didn't resist when she ran her scanner over him. Cortana would be analyzing the data anyway, comparing it against baseline human readings to determine if wormhole travel posed long-term health risks to Spartan physiology. Carter was already at her computer terminals, reviewing the sensor data the MALP had collected during the firefight. Sir, look at this. The Spartans' weapons, they're using chemically propelled projectiles, but the armor penetration characteristics are incredible. And their energy shields absorbed plasma impacts that would have killed anyone in standard body armor. We need to understand this technology. Later, Major, Hammond said, though his tone suggested he shared her curiosity. Right now, I want to debrief this mission and understand what we've learned about Anubis's activities on P3X 984. Teal'c approached Chief directly, his dark eyes studying the Spartan with the intensity of a warrior assessing another warrior. You fought with honor, Master Chief. Your warriors move as one, strike with precision, and show restraint even against enemies who would show them none. The Jaffa, who faced you today, will speak of armored demons who could not be stopped. It is a reputation that will spread among the armies of the false gods. That's the plan, Chief replied. Fear is a weapon. If the Goa'uld's warriors start questioning whether their gods can protect them from us, the system lords lose their most valuable asset, fanatical loyalty. Daniel pushed his glasses up, his academic mind clearly working through cultural implications. You're not just planning to fight the Goa'uld militarily. You're planning to undermine their entire religious authority structure by demonstrating that their supposed divine power can't stand against human warriors. It's psychological warfare on a civilizational scale. Fred spoke up, his tone matter-of-fact. It's how we fought the Covenant. We couldn't match their numbers or their technology initially, so we made them afraid. Every time they encountered Spartans, we made sure survivors carried stories back about the demons who couldn't be killed. Eventually, even their warriors hesitated before engaging us. The difference is that the Goa'uld aren't a unified force, O'Neill interjected. They're a bunch of egomaniacs competing for power. If we make the Jaffa afraid of Earth, the system lords won't unite against us. They'll turn on each other, trying to prove they're strong enough to claim our world as a prize. We could trigger a civil war among the system lords just by existing as a threat. Hammond's expression shifted from concerned to calculating. Then we need to ensure that when the Goa'uld come, and they will, we're ready to make a statement they can't ignore. Master Chief, I want your assessment on defending Earth from orbital assault. Assume multiple Ha'tak motherships, coordinated strike, targeting both Stargate Command and population centers. Chief's tactical mind engaged immediately, running simulations that Cortana fed with data about Goa'uld fleet doctrine and weapon capabilities. Sir, with Infinity and the escort fleet in optimal defensive positions, we can establish a perimeter that makes orbital bombardment prohibitively expensive. Our point defense systems can intercept their energy weapons, and our MAC guns can eliminate capital ships before they enter effective firing range. The challenge isn't defending Earth, it's doing it in a way that sends the right message to observers. What message is that? Hammond asked. That Earth is no longer vulnerable. That attacking this world means facing an enemy who will destroy your fleet, hunt your survivors, and make an example that ensures no other system lord tries the same thing. Chief's voice carried the absolute certainty of someone who'd spent 30 years making good on exactly those kinds of threats. We don't just want to win the battle, General. We want to win it so decisively that the other system lords decide Earth isn't worth the cost. Carter pulled up stellar cartography data on the main display. There's another consideration, sir. Our allies, the Tok'ra, the Jaffa Rebellion, even the Asgard, are going to want explanations about where this fleet came from and what it means for the balance of power in the galaxy. We can't just reveal UNSC capabilities without coordinating with the people who've been helping us survive for years. Indeed, Major Carter is correct, Teal'c added. The Tok'ra in particular will wish to know if Earth has been hiding technological capabilities or if the UNSC represents a new factor they must account for in their resistance operations. And Ha'tak, who leads the Jaffa rebellion, will see the Spartans as potential allies in the war against the false gods or as a threat to the Jaffa's role in their own liberation. Chief absorbed that information, recognizing the political complexity of a situation where military solutions alone wouldn't suffice. The UNSC had faced similar challenges during the Covenant War, when different human factions competed for resources and political authority even while facing extinction. Building coalitions required trust, and trust required transparency about capabilities and intentions. Then we start with transparency, Chief said. Invite your allies to meet with UNSC leadership. Show them our technology, explain how we fight, and make it clear we're here to help defend humanity, not conquer it. Captain Lasky is a diplomat as much as a warrior. He can make the case. Hammond nodded slowly, the pieces of a larger strategy beginning to coalesce. All right, we'll arrange a summit Tok'ra, Jaffa leadership, and if we can get Thor's attention, Asgard representation. But that takes time, and Anubis isn't known for his patience. Colonel O'Neill, I want SG-1 prepared for rapid deployment if we detect System Lord fleet movements. Master Chief, coordinate with Major Carter on integrating your fleet sensors with our deep space monitoring network. And someone find out what Anubis was developing on P3X-984, because if he was willing to station elite guards at that facility, whatever's there is important. As the briefing concluded and personnel dispersed to their assignments, Cortana's voice came through Chief's helmet in a private channel. Chief, I analyzed the energy signatures from those ruins. Whatever Anubis is building, it's using power generation principles similar to ancient technology, but with modifications that suggest he's trying to weaponize something the ancients deliberately didn't militarize. If he succeeds, the fleet might not be enough to stop him. Then we make sure he doesn't succeed, Chief replied, watching SG-1 prepare for their next mission with the practiced efficiency of soldiers who'd been at war for years. We find his facilities, destroy his weapons, and eliminate the threat before he can deploy it. That's a tall order, Cortana observed. It's the mission, Chief said simply. And for a Spartan, that was all that mattered. The conference chamber aboard UNSC Infinity represented 5 centuries of human engineering curved walls lined with holographic displays, a central table that could project tactical overlays from 1,000 star systems, and viewports that looked out onto Earth's curved horizon far below. Captain Thomas Lasky stood at the head of the table, his crisp Navy uniform, a stark contrast to the eclectic mix of delegates assembled for what might be the most important diplomatic summit in 2 galaxies. General Hammond occupied one side with SG-1 flanking him, their military bearing unmistakable even in the unfamiliar setting of a ship that dwarfed anything Earth had constructed. Major Carter's eyes kept drifting to the holographic systems, her scientific mind clearly cataloging technologies she desperately wanted to study. O'Neill maintained his characteristic slouch, but his tactical awareness remained sharp as he assessed potential threats and exits with the instinct of a soldier who'd survived too many diplomatic incidents gone violent. Across from them sat 3 Tok'ra representatives, their eyes occasionally flashing with the telltale glow of symbiote communication. Garsha of Belote led their delegation, an older woman, whose host and symbiote both carried the weight of centuries fighting the Goa'uld. Jacob Carter sat beside her, his presence a complicated intersection of human father and alien resistance fighter that made Sam's expression flicker between professional and personal. The third Tok'ra, Anis, studied the Spartans standing guard with the kind of analytical intensity that made Chief's threat assessment flag her as intelligence operative. Ha'tak represented the Jaffa Rebellion, an ancient warrior whose weathered face bore scars from a lifetime of service to false gods, followed by decades fighting to free his people from that slavery. He'd arrived via Asgard transport with Teal's personal guarantee, but his hand never strayed far from the staff weapon he'd refused to leave behind. Master Ha'tak, as Teal called him, with genuine respect, was not a man who trusted easily. The Asgard presence came in the form of Supreme Commander Thor, a gray-skinned alien whose large, dark eyes and diminutive stature belied a mind that had guided humanity through existential threats on multiple occasions. He stood on a raised platform that brought him to eye level with the humans, his attention focused on the holographic displays showing UNSC fleet dispositions with what Chief's body language analysis suggested was intense curiosity. "I thank you all for coming," Lasky began, his command voice filling the chamber with the practiced authority of someone who'd led fleets through hostile space. "I know the circumstances of our arrival have raised questions about who we are, where we came from, and what our presence means for the balance of power in this galaxy. I'm here to provide answers." Cortana's avatar materialized on the central table's holoprojector, her blue form drawing surprised reactions from everyone except Thor, whose expression might have been amusement. "Captain Lasky, if I may, I've prepared a comprehensive briefing that covers UNSC history, the Covenant War, and the technological developments that led to our current capabilities. It might help our guests understand the context." "Proceed, Cortana." Lasky nodded. The holographic display shifted, showing Earth, but not the Earth visible through Infinity's viewports. This Earth bore the scars of plasma bombardment, orbital defense platforms in ruins, and continents where cities had been glassed into radioactive wastelands. The assembled delegates leaned forward, horror and recognition crossing their faces as they saw their own potential future rendered in brutal clarity. "This is Earth from our timeline," Cortana explained, her voice carrying none of her usual playful tone. "In the year 2525, humanity encountered the Covenant, a theocratic alliance of alien species who believed humans were an affront to their gods. They declared a holy war of extermination. For 27 years, we fought them across hundreds of worlds. We lost most of those worlds. Billions died. By 2552, the Covenant had found Earth, and we were facing our last stand." The hologram cycled through images of warfare that made the SGC personnel's expressions tighten with recognition: civilians fleeing orbital bombardment, soldiers making desperate last stands against overwhelming force, worlds burning under plasma fire that turned cities to glass. It was the Goa'uld War, written larger, with better technology and worse casualties. Ha'tak's voice carried the roughness of age and battle. "You fought an enemy that sought to exterminate your species. This we understand. The Goa'uld have done the same to countless civilizations. Yet you survived. How?" Chief stepped forward, his armored presence drawing every eye in the chamber. "We adapted. The Covenant had superior numbers and technology, but we had something they didn't: tactical flexibility, individual initiative, and warriors willing to sacrifice everything to buy time for humanity to survive. The Spartan program created soldiers enhanced from childhood, trained to operate behind enemy lines, to assassinate enemy leaders, and to turn impossible odds into tactical victories through precision and coordination." "Super soldiers," Jacob Carter said, his symbiote's voice overlaying his own. "Genetic manipulation, cybernetic enhancement, psychological conditioning. The ethics are questionable, but the results speak for themselves. You're alive." "The ethics were questionable," Lasky acknowledged, his tone carrying the weight of historical reckoning. "The Spartangent 2 program took children and turned them into weapons. Many died in the augmentation process. Those who survived lost their childhoods to military training. It was a terrible choice made by desperate people facing extinction. We can't change what was done, but we can acknowledge it and ensure those sacrifices meant something. Garshaw's eyes flashed as her symbiote conferred with her host. You speak of desperation and survival, yet you arrive here with a fleet that could challenge System Lord armadas. You claim to be from another timeline or dimension, pulled here by forces you don't control. Why should we believe you are allies, rather than conquerors who see a galaxy weakened by war as an opportunity for expansion? Because we've already been the desperate civilization fighting for survival, Carter interjected, her military professionalism giving way to the passion of someone who understood exactly what these people were offering. We've been where you are outgunned, outnumbered, and watching our allies die because we didn't have the technology or firepower to save them. If the UNSC wanted to conquer this galaxy, they wouldn't be sitting here asking for permission. They'd have already secured every strategic resource and established military governance. Instead, they're offering to help us fight the Goa'uld. Thor's synthesized voice carried a quality that might have been approval. Major Carter's assessment aligns with Asgard observations. The UNSC fleet has maintained defensive positions around Earth without attempting territorial expansion or resource extraction. Their weapons capabilities far exceed our initial estimates. A single Infinity-class vessel could theoretically engage multiple Ori warships with favorable odds, yet they have demonstrated restraint and diplomatic protocol. This suggests genuine interest in alliance rather than subjugation. The Ori? Cortana's processing cycles spiked. I've encountered references to them in SGC databases, but limited tactical data. Thor, if you're comparing our capabilities to Ori warships, I need threat assessments. The Asgard commander's large eyes fixed on the AI with what might have been the first time in millennia that something had genuinely surprised him. You are a fully autonomous artificial intelligence integrated with human consciousness and military systems. Fascinating. The Asgard attempted to develop such technology, but found the computational requirements exceeded our capabilities. How did humanity achieve this? Long story involving a brilliant scientist, some ethical boundaries that probably should have been respected, and my personal charm, Cortana replied. But Thor's right to be concerned about the Ori. From what I've analyzed in SGC records, they're ascended beings who've weaponized religious faith and possess technology that makes the Goa'uld look primitive. If they're a threat to this galaxy, we need to factor them into strategic planning. Anise leaned forward, her intelligence operative instincts clearly engaged. The immediate threat is Anubis. The Ori have not yet invaded in force, but Anubis has been augmenting himself with ancient knowledge and developing superweapons that could destroy entire fleets. The Tok'ra have intelligence suggesting he's preparing a major offensive against Earth specifically because your Stargate represents a strategic asset he cannot allow his rivals to control. Then we use that, Fred said from his position near Chief. The other Spartans remained silent, but their presence, 4 armored warriors who'd proven capable of decimating Jaffa elite guards, served as visceral reminder of UNSC military capabilities. Anubis wants Earth, so we make Earth the trap. Let him come with his fleet, and we demonstrate exactly what happens when system lords attack worlds defended by UNSC battlegroups. Ha'tak's weathered face split into something that might have been a smile. You speak as a warrior, young one, but you have not faced the armies of the false gods in their full might. Anubis commands hundreds of Jaffa battalions, dozens of Ha'tak motherships, and weapons that have destroyed worlds. Your confidence may be misplaced. Master Ha'tak, Teal said respectfully, I have witnessed these warriors in combat. They move with coordination that surpasses even the finest Jaffa units. Their armor renders them immune to staff weapon fire, and their weapons can destroy Ha'taks with single shots. I do not believe their confidence is misplaced. I believe it is earned. Kelly spoke up, her voice carrying the kind of casual certainty that came from having survived impossible odds countless times. Sir, we've faced worse. The Covenant had ships 3 kilometers long with energy projectors that could cut UNSC cruisers in half. They had warriors, Sangheili zealots, who were faster, stronger, and more experienced than any human soldier. They had weapons that could sterilize continents. And we beat them by being smarter, faster, and more ruthless than they expected. The Goa'uld are dangerous, but they're not insurmountable. Hammond cleared his throat, his command presence reasserting control over a briefing that was rapidly evolving into military planning. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. Before we start planning defensive operations, we need to establish whether this alliance is actually happening. Supreme Commander Thor, what is the Asgard High Council's position on UNSC presence in this galaxy? Thor's expression remained unreadable, but his tone carried weight. The Asgard have protected Earth for years because we recognized humanity's potential, your capacity for innovation, adaptation, and survival, despite overwhelming odds. The UNSC represents an alternate branch of human development that achieved in 5 centuries what we hoped your Earth might accomplish in millennia. We see no reason to oppose their presence. Indeed, we would welcome technological exchange that might help resolve the Asgard's own existential challenges. The cloning degradation, Cortana said immediately. I've been analyzing your genetic structure through the sensor data from your transport. You're suffering from cumulative errors in your cloning process. Each generation loses fidelity, and you're approaching a point where the damage becomes irreversible. Thor, with access to UNSC genetic databases and our experience with augmentation protocols, we might be able to help. The chamber fell silent. The Asgard's cloning crisis was an open secret, a dying race, watching their civilization fade, despite technology that exceeded almost every other species in the galaxy. Cortana had just offered a potential solution in exchange for nothing but the opportunity to help, and every delegate present understood the implications. The Asgard would be grateful for such assistance, Thor said carefully, and in return, we would provide access to our technological archives and support Earth's defense against Goa'uld aggression. Garshaw's eyes flashed again. The Tok'ra also see the value in alliance, though we have concerns about UNSC military doctrine potentially undermining our long-term strategy of infiltrating and destabilizing the system lords from within. Open warfare may force the Goa'uld to unite against a common threat rather than continuing their internal conflicts. That's a fair concern, Lasky acknowledged, which is why I'm proposing a coordinated strategy. The Tok'ra continue their infiltration and intelligence operations. The Jaffa Rebellion weakens System Lord armies from within, and UNSC forces provide strategic deterrence and rapid response to major threats. We don't replace your existing efforts. We supplement them with capabilities you currently lack. Ha'tak stood, his ancient body moving with the fluid grace of a lifetime warrior. You offer much, Captain Lasky, but words in conference chambers are easily spoken. Deeds on the battlefield earn trust among the Jaffa. If you wish our warriors to fight beside your soldiers, you must prove that your Spartans can stand with us against the armies of the false gods and emerge victorious. Chief's helmet turned toward Teal'c, a silent question passing between warriors. Teal'c nodded fractionally. This was about honor, about proving worth through shared combat, about warriors recognizing other warriors through the only language that transcended cultures and timelines. Name the mission, Master Ha'tak, Chief said. Blue Team will stand with the Jaffa Rebellion. We'll prove our worth in combat. O'Neill muttered something that sounded like, here we go again, but Hammond's expression suggested he'd expected this development. Wars weren't won in conference rooms. They were won by soldiers who trusted each other enough to stand together when the shooting started, and trust was earned in blood. There is a world, Ha'tak began, his voice carrying the weight of strategic opportunity, where Anubis has established a training facility for his elite Kull warriors soldiers enhanced with technology that makes them nearly unstoppable. The Tok'ra have provided intelligence, but our forces lack the strength to assault the facility directly. If your Spartans could help us strike this target, you would deal a significant blow to Anubis's military capabilities while proving your commitment to Jaffa's liberation. Cortana pulled up stellar cartography data. I'm locating the facility in our databases. Heavily fortified, multiple defense grids, and cull warriors that, according to SGC records, can shrug off staff weapon fire and survive massive trauma. Chief, this is going to be a hard target. Hard targets are what Spartans do, Linda observed quietly. Lasky looked at Chief, a silent question in his expression about whether his Spartans were being volunteered for a suicide mission to prove a political point. Chief's answering look was equally silent. This was necessary. This was the mission. And Spartans had built their legend by accomplishing the impossible when humanity needed them most. General Hammond, Chief said formally, requesting permission to conduct joint operations with the Jaffa Rebellion against high-value Anubis targets. Hammond's weathered face showed the strain of a commander sending soldiers into danger, but his voice remained steady. Permission granted, Master Chief. Bring our allies home, and bring yourselves home with them. That's an order. Understood, sir. Chief turned to Ha'tak, extending his armored hand. We'll stand with Jaffa. Together, we'll show Anubis what happens when humans stop being slaves and start being soldiers. The ancient warrior grasped Chief's hand, and in that moment an alliance was forged, not through treaties or diplomatic protocols, but through the ancient understanding between warriors preparing to walk into battle together. The Goa'uld had spent millennia believing humanity existed to serve them. They were about to discover that humanity from every timeline and every dimension had decided otherwise. The Pelican dropship cut through the atmosphere of P2X 338 with active camouflage engaged, its hull rippling with light-bending technology that made it effectively invisible to the Goa'uld sensor arrays scattered across the planet's surface. In the troop bay, Master Chief ran final equipment checks alongside warriors from two very different human civilizations, 4 Spartans in Mjolnir armor and 12 Jaffa rebels who'd painted over the serpent emblems of their former masters with symbols of freedom. Ha'tak stood at the center of the bay, his ancient body encased in armor that bore the scars of 100 battles. Beside him, Teal'c reviewed tactical overlays on a UNSC datapad that Carter had modified to interface with Jaffa communication systems. The contrast between staff weapons and MA-5D assault rifles, between armor forged in the traditions of millennia and powered suits representing centuries of technological evolution, should have been jarring. Instead, it felt right humanity united across impossible distances to fight a common enemy. The facility is located within the mountain complex here, Ha'tak indicated on the holographic display Cortana projected. Anubis has fortified it with energy barriers, automated defense turrets, and patrols of his cull warriors. Intelligence suggests 20 to 30 cull soldiers guard the facility at any time, along with support staff and Jaffa overseers. Our objective is to penetrate the facility, destroy the cloning tanks where the cull are created, and retrieve any intelligence about Anubis's other operations. Fred studied the facility's layout, his tactical mind already running assault simulations. Perimeter defenses are standard area denial energy barriers channeling approaches into kill zones, overlapping fields of fire, elevated positions for sentries. But they're defending against staff weapons and conventional explosives, not UNSC breaching equipment. Chief, if we hit the eastern approach with thermite charges, we can burn through the barriers before their response teams deploy. The cull warriors will respond within seconds, Teal'c warned. I have fought them before. Their armor is impervious to staff weapon fire. They possess strength greater than any Jaffa, and they regenerate from wounds that would kill normal soldiers. Do not underestimate them." End quote. Kelly's voice carried professional interest. Regeneration factor like the Flood's mutation capabilities or Covenant Sangheli's shields. Cortana, analysis on countering regenerative biology. W. The AI's avatar flickered, as she processed tactical data. Based on SGC medical files, Kull warrior regeneration requires their armored suits to remain functional. The suits contain the technology that enables rapid healing. Catastrophic damage to the suit's power systems or structural integrity should neutralize the regeneration. Recommendation: concentrated fire on suit joints and power cores. And Chief, their weapons are staff cannons integrated into their armor, significantly more powerful than standard staff weapons. Your shields will absorb hits, but sustained fire could overwhelm them. Linda checked her sniper rifle's ammunition, specialized UNSC rounds designed to penetrate enhanced armor plating. How many shots to drop? 1. Unknown, Cortana admitted. We're extrapolating from limited combat data. SG-1 encountered Kull warriors twice and survived both times through unconventional tactics rather than direct combat. They're designed to be the Goa'uld's answer to enemies that normal Jaffa can't defeat. Then will be their first real test, Chief stated. Blue team, standard breach, and clear. Jaffa forces hold the perimeter and provide reinforcement once we've neutralized primary resistance. Master Ha'tak, your warriors know this terrain and these enemies. I need your tactical expertise on Goa'uld response protocols. The old warrior's expression showed approval. You honor us by seeking our counsel, rather than assuming your superior technology renders our experience irrelevant. This is wise. The Goa'uld are predictable. In their arrogance, they will send the Kull warriors to crush what they perceive as a minor incursion, confident in their super soldiers' invincibility. When those warriors fall, confusion and fear will spread among the support staff. That is when we strike the facility's core. The Pelican shuddered slightly as it entered its final approach vector, Captain Reyes's voice coming through the intercom. Spartans, we're 60 seconds from insertion point. Scanners show active patrols, but no indication they've detected our approach. You'll have approximately 3 minutes before their sensor grid compensates for our stealth systems. 3 minutes is generous. O'Neill's voice came through the comm channel. He was aboard Infinity with SG-1, monitoring the operation from the Battlefleet's command center alongside Captain Lasky. Most of our insertions give us about 30 seconds before everything goes sideways. Try not to start an intergalactic incident, Chief. Hammond's already nervous about this operation. Understood, Colonel, Chief replied. The Pelican's rear hatch began opening, cold air rushing in as the dropship descended toward a rocky plateau 3 clicks from the facility. Blue team, deploy. The Spartans dropped from the Pelican in synchronized precision 20-meter falls that would have shattered normal human legs, absorbed by armor servos and augmented physiology. They hit the ground in combat formation, rifles up and scanning for threats, while the Jaffa warriors fast-roped down with practiced efficiency. Ha'tak landed last, his ancient body moving with the fluid grace of someone who'd been conducting military insertions since before most nations on Earth existed. The Pelican's engines flared as it pulled away, active camouflage re-engaging to render it invisible against the alien sky. Chief's motion tracker painted the terrain ahead, rocky outcroppings providing cover, sensor towers, broadcasting active scans, and patrol patterns that his tactical AI highlighted as predictable and exploitable. Cortana, enemy communications? I'm intercepting Goa'uld network traffic, the AI reported. Standard patrol reports, facility status updates, nothing indicating alarm. Their encryption is surprisingly primitive. I've already cracked their command protocols. Chief, I can spoof their sensor network to create blind spots in their coverage if you want a quieter approach. Do it. Blue team, move out. Jaffa forces, establish fallback position here and prepare to advance on my signal. The Spartans moved through the rocky terrain like armored ghosts, 7-foot frames, somehow finding cover in landscape that seemed too exposed for stealth. Their active camouflage systems adapting to local light conditions to render them nearly invisible. Behind them, the Jaffa warriors spread into defensive positions with the discipline of soldiers who'd learned to fight smart against technologically superior enemies. Chief's HUD painted targeting reticles over the facility's eastern wall, a section where Cortana's analysis suggested the energy barriers would be weakest. Fred and Kelly flanked him, their thermite charges ready. Linda took position on elevated ground 300 meters back, her sniper rifle's scope feeding telescopic imagery directly into the tactical net. "Contact," Linda reported. "Two call warriors on patrol, approaching from facility's north entrance. Walking pattern suggests routine inspection, not alert status." Through his rifle's smart link, Chief watched the call warriors emerge from the facility. They were exactly as the briefing materials described, humanoid shapes, encased in black armor that seemed to absorb light, their movements precise and mechanical. Shoulder-mounted staff cannons tracking potential threats with automated efficiency. They stood at least 7 feet tall, and their armor's bulk suggested significant integrated systems beyond simple protection. "Those are impressive," Kelly observed. "Goa'uld finally built something that looks dangerous instead of just flashy." "They are more than dangerous," Teal'c's voice came through the comm. "They are the embodiment of Anubis's cruelty warriors who feel no pain, show no mercy, and serve their master with absolute obedience. Many Jaffa have died fighting Kull. It is good that you do not face them alone." Chief watched the Kull patrol move past their position, his motion tracker confirming the warriors' sensor sweeps weren't detecting the Spartans' active camouflage. Goa'uld technology was sophisticated in many ways, but it had been designed to counter staff weapons and primitive electronics, not UNSC stealth systems that bent electromagnetic radiation around armored soldiers. "Charges set," Fred reported. "Ready to breach on your mark." "Linda, you have the call?" "Affirmative. 2 targets. Range 275 meters. Environmental conditions minimal. I can drop both before they return fire." "Do it." Linda's sniper rifle cracked twice, suppressed reports that sounded like distant thunder rather than gunfire. 2-14. 5x11. 4mm armor-piercing rounds crossed the distance at hypersonic velocity and struck the Kull warrior's helmet joints, where armor plating met neck seals. The specialized rounds punched through the suit's defensive systems with kinetic force that shattered ceramics and collapsed structural supports. The first Kull warrior's head snapped back, its helmet cracking as the round penetrated and detonated the suit's internal power systems. It collapsed like a puppet with cut strings, black armor smoking from catastrophic systems failure. The second warrior managed to turn toward the threat before Linda's follow-up shot struck its chest power core, and the resulting energy discharge sent it stumbling backward before it too fell motionless. "Targets down," Linda confirmed. "Facility alarm systems activating. They detected the power core failures." "Breach now," Chief ordered. Fred and Kelly sprinted forward, their enhanced speed carrying them across open ground to the facility's eastern wall in seconds. They slapped thermite charges against the energy barrier's generator nodes, small devices that burned at temperatures exceeding 3,000 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt through Goa'uld power systems like tissue paper. The barriers flickered and died as their generators liquefied, leaving a gap in the facility's defenses. The Spartans poured through the breach, their rifles tracking movement as facility personnel scrambled to respond. Human technicians, slaves, or collaborators, Chief's threat assessment flagged them as non-combatants fled down corridors. Jaffa warriors in standard armor rushed toward the breach with staff weapons raised, shouting commands in Goa'uld that Cortana translated in real time. "Opening fire," Kelly announced, her rifle barking in controlled bursts that dropped 3 Jaffa before they could bring their weapons to bear. Fred's shots were equally precise center mass impacts that punched through Jaffa armor and incapacitated warriors without excessive force. Chief advanced through the corridor, his tactical awareness painting threats before they emerged from cover. A Kull warrior rounded the corner ahead, its shoulder cannons already charging. Chief's shields flared as staff cannon fire impacted with force equivalent to anti-vehicle weapons. His armor's power system absorbed the hit, shields dropped to 60%, and he returned fire with a burst that sparked off the Kull's armor without penetrating. "Armor's too thick for standard rounds at this angle," Cortana advised. "Targeting joints." Chief didn't wait for analysis. He closed distance with the Kull warrior in 3 strides, grabbed the staff cannon barrel with his left hand, and ripped it from its mounting with strength that tore metal. Then drove his combat knife into the warrior's neck joint with his right. The blade punched through the armor seal and severed whatever passed for the Kull's neural systems. The warrior collapsed, and Chief's motion tracker lit up with 12 more contacts converging on their position. "Blue team, strong point defense. Ha'tak, advance your forces, we've opened the door." The Jaffa warriors stormed through the breach with war cries that echoed through the facility's corridors. They moved with coordinated precision that spoke to decades of military training, their staff weapons providing covering fire, while Spartans engaged Kull warriors in close combat. It was chaos and coordination simultaneously, 2 human militaries fighting together for the first time, their tactics meshing through the universal language of soldiers who trusted each other to hold the line. A Kull warrior charged Teal'c, its armored fist swinging with force that would crush bone. Teal'c rolled beneath the strike and fired his staff weapon point blank into the warrior's leg joint. The plasma blast, exploiting the weak point that Kelly's analysis had identified. The joint collapsed, and Fred finished the Kull with a burst to its power core that sent it crashing down in a shower of sparks. "Cloning facility ahead," Cortana reported, her infiltration of the base's systems complete. "Central chamber, 2 levels down. Also detecting a secure data repository, Chief. We need to extract those files before destroying the facility." "Linda, Kelly data extraction. Fred, Teal'c, with me. Ha'tak, secure our extraction route." The Spartans and their Jaffa allies descended into the facility's depths, where the full horror of Anubis's ambitions became visible. Cloning tanks lined the walls, dozens of them, each containing partially formed Kull warriors in various stages of development. Goa'uld technology merged with ancient knowledge to create soldiers who were more weapon than warrior, more slave than sapient, bred for one purpose: to enforce the will of a false god who saw all life as either tools or obstacles. Chief planted demolition charges on the cloning tank's power systems, while Fred secured the chamber's entrance against Kull reinforcements that threw themselves at the Spartans with mechanical persistence. Each Kull that fell took concentrated fire to bring down armor that absorbed punishment that would destroy vehicles, regeneration systems that sealed wounds even as bullets tore through synthetic flesh, and weapons that forced even Spartans to respect their thread. "Charges set," Chief reported. "Blue team, extract now." The Spartans withdrew in perfect coordination, covering each other's movements, while Jaffa warriors provided suppressing fire that kept enemy forces pinned long enough for the demolition to arm. They reached the breach point as facility alarms screamed warnings about imminent power core failures, and Chief triggered the charges remotely. The explosion tore through the mountain facility with devastating force, cloning tanks rupturing, power systems cascading into failure, and Anubis's super soldier program suffering a blow that would take months to recover from. The Pelican swooped in through smoke and debris, its rear hatch open as Spartans and Jaffa warriors scrambled aboard under covering fire from the dropship's chin-mounted guns. As the Pelican pulled away from the burning facility, Ha'tak looked at Chief with an expression that transcended cultural boundaries. It was respect warrior recognizing warrior, human acknowledging human, soldier honoring soldier through the ancient rites of shared combat and victory earned in blood. "You have proven your worth, Master Chief," the ancient Jaffa said. "The free Jaffa will stand with the UNSC. Together, we will show the false gods what humanity has become when freed from their chains." Chief removed his helmet, meeting Ha'tak's eyes with his own. "Together," he agreed. And in orbit above, watching through Infinity's sensors, Captain Lasky smiled. The alliance was no longer theoretical. It was forged in the fire of combat, and it was going to change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The System Lord's Council Chamber, existed in a pocket of space, accessible only through heavily guarded stargates and hyperspace coordinates known to a select few. Lord Yu's ancient Ha'tak mothership served as neutral ground, where the most powerful Goa'uld in the galaxy gathered to discuss matters that affected them all: territorial disputes, threats from ascended beings, and now the unprecedented arrival of a human military force that had destroyed one of Anubis's facilities with contemptuous ease. Baal materialized through the Asgard-derived transport rings with characteristic flair. His host body, chosen for its aristocratic bearing, and his expression radiating the smug superiority of a Goa'uld who believed himself the cleverest predator in the galaxy. He took his position at the circular table, nodding acknowledgement to the holographic projections of system lords who declined to attend in person: Olokun, Morrigan, and others whose paranoia exceeded their curiosity. Lord Yu entered with the measured steps of the galaxy's oldest living system, Lord, his elderly host body showing the wear of millennia, even with sarcophagus rejuvenation. His eyes, still sharp despite his body's age, studied each attendee with the assessment of someone who'd outlived countless rivals through wisdom and caution. Anubis's presence dominated the chamber, despite appearing only as a holographic projection, a cloaked figure whose features remained hidden within shadow. His voice carrying the dual tones of Goa'uld possession mixed with something darker, something that resonated with half-ascended power that defied conventional reality. "You summoned this council, Anubis," Baal began, his tone carrying barely disguised mockery, "to discuss your recent setback? How refreshing to see you admit weakness. I'd thought you believed yourself beyond such mortal concerns as military defeat." The temperature in the chamber dropped several degrees as Anubis's hologram turned toward Baal. "Mock me at your peril, Baal. The force that destroyed my facility represents a threat to all system lords, or an opportunity for those wise enough to seize it. The Tok'ra have revealed they possess allies from beyond our galaxy, warriors with technology and capabilities we have not encountered before." Lord Yu's ancient voice carried the weight of experience. "The Asgard have protected the Tok'ra for years. This is known. What makes these new arrivals significant beyond the Protected Planets Treaty that already shields Earth from our aggression?" Anubis gestured, and the holographic display at the chamber's center shifted to show footage captured by surveillance devices during the raid on his facility. The system lords watched in silence as armored warriors, humans, unmistakably human despite their enhanced capabilities, moved through Goa'uld defenses with precision that made veteran Jaffa look clumsy. Kull warriors that had been designed to be unstoppable fell to weapons fire that punched through armor with ease. Energy barriers that could withstand sustained staff weapon bombardment burned away like paper. "These are not Asgard," Anubis stated. "These are humans Tok'ra, or related subspecies equipped with technology centuries beyond what Earth has demonstrated previously. They call themselves UNSC, and they arrived through the Stargate in a fleet of 30 warships that my spies report could destroy our Ha'taks with single weapons discharges." Baal leaned forward, his interest no longer feigned. "You're suggesting Earth has been hiding advanced military capabilities? That seems unlikely. The Tok'ra have been scavenging our technology for years, barely surviving encounters with our forces through luck and Asgard intervention." "Not hiding," Anubis corrected. "Receiving reinforcements from an alternate timeline or parallel dimension. My intelligence is unclear on the specifics, but the result is the same. Earth now possesses military assets that fundamentally alter the balance of power. If we allow the Tok'ra to consolidate this alliance, they will become a threat to System Lord dominion over the galaxy." Lord Yu's expression showed calculation rather than concern. "Or they could be manipulated into eliminating our rivals." "Anubis, you have long been a destabilizing force among the System Lords, with your half-ascended knowledge and forbidden technologies. Perhaps these UNSC forces represent an opportunity to rebalance the Council's power structure." The threat hung in the air, suggesting that the other system lords might ally with Earth to eliminate Anubis, using UNSC firepower to destroy the most dangerous Goa'uld while protecting their own territories. It was exactly the kind of political maneuvering that had kept the system lords divided for millennia. Aboard UNSC Infinity, Cortana listened to every word through infiltration of the Goa'uld communication network. Her intrusion into their systems had taken 18 hours of processing time and exploitation of security vulnerabilities that would have made ON's best cyber warfare specialists jealous. But the payoff was complete access to System Lord strategic communications. "Chief, you need to hear this," Cortana said, her avatar appearing on the holographic display in Infinity's war room where the Spartan stood with Captain Lasky, General Hammond, and SG-1. The council chamber's audio played through the speakers, and the assembled personnel listened to System Lords debating whether to unite against Earth or use the UNSC to eliminate rivals. O'Neill's expression cycled through disbelief, anger, and weary recognition. This was exactly how the Goa'uld operated, turning every crisis into an opportunity for backstabbing. "They're treating us like a weapon they can aim at their enemies," Carter observed. "They don't see the UNSC as an independent force. They see it as a tool to be controlled or neutralized." "Standard tyrannical oligarchy behavior," Lasky replied. "The insurrectionists used to think they could manipulate UNSC forces into fighting each other while they consolidated power. They learned otherwise. The Goa'uld will too." End quote. Chief watched Anubis's hologram on the display, his tactical mind analyzing the half-ascended Goa'uld's body language and vocal patterns for intelligence about capabilities and intentions. This was the primary threat, a being with ancient knowledge and resources to develop superweapons that could threaten entire worlds. Eliminating Anubis would weaken the System Lord's most dangerous member while demonstrating UNSC resolve. "He's planning something," Chief stated. His tone suggests this council is theater. He's already decided his response to our presence, and he's using the other System Lords to gather intelligence about their reactions. Cortana's processing cycles spiked as she analyzed the data streams flowing through Goa'uld networks. "You're right, Chief. I'm detecting encrypted communications between Anubis and his fleet commander's orders being issued for fleet concentration in a sector designated as off-limits to other System Lords. He's massing forces for a major operation." "Against Earth?" Hammond demanded. His command instincts immediately focused on the threat to his planet. "Unknown, but probable," Cortana admitted. His communications reference, eliminating the UNSC threat before it can entrench, and acquiring samples for study and replication. "Sir, I think Anubis wants to capture UNSC technology, specifically Spartans, to augment his Cull Warrior program. He's not trying to destroy us. He's trying to harvest us." The war room fell silent as the implications settled. The Covenant had tried to capture Spartans for study early in the war, hoping to understand what made them so effective and replicate those capabilities. Those attempts had ended badly for the Covenant, but they'd learned that Spartans would rather die than allow themselves to become test subjects for enemy experimentation. Daniel's academic mind engaged despite the tactical horror of the situation. Anubis already tried to ascend once and failed, leaving him stuck between human and energy being. If he got access to Spartan augmentation technology and combined it with his ancient knowledge, he could create something worse than the Cull Warriors. He could create warriors with actual tactical intelligence, enhanced beyond any human standard, loyal to him absolutely. "That's not happening," Fred stated flatly. Blue Team stood together near the tactical display, their body language radiating the absolute certainty of soldiers who'd heard this threat before and dealt with it decisively. Anyone who tries to capture Spartans for experimentation learns the same lesson in the Covenant did: we don't get captured. Teal'c, who'd been observing silently from his position with Ha'tak, spoke with the gravity of someone who understood exactly what Anubis was capable of. The half-ascended one must be stopped before he can execute his plans. If he successfully creates enhanced warriors using your technology, the Jaffa Rebellion will face enemies we cannot defeat. The Free Jaffa have overcome Goa'uld advantages through numbers, tactics, and the knowledge that we fight for freedom rather than slavery. Against warriors as capable as Spartans but enslaved to Anubis's will, we would be slaughtered. Ha'tak nodded agreement. Master Chief, you understand warfare against enemies who possess technological superiority. You have said the UNSC defeated such foes through asymmetric tactics and targeting leadership. Anubis is the head of the serpent. If he is destroyed, his forces will scatter or be absorbed by other system lords who lack his vision and capabilities. Assassination mission, Kelly said immediately, her tactical instincts already running operational planning. Deep penetration, locate Anubis's flagship, eliminate target, extract before his fleet can respond. Standard Spartan operation profile. O'Neill looked at the Spartans like they'd just suggested something insane, which, from his perspective, they had. You want to infiltrate a system lord's mothership, kill a half-ascended being with access to ancient weapons, and escape from the middle of his fleet? We've tried to kill Anubis before. It didn't work. He regenerates. He has personal shields that can withstand direct hits from staff cannons, and his ship has defenses that make Area 51 look accessible. Colonel O'Neill is correct, Cortana interjected. However, his assessment is based on conventional assault tactics using Goa'uld-level technology. UNSC insertion protocols are significantly more sophisticated. Chief, if we can locate Anubis's flagship and get a Pelican within range, I can hack their shield harmonics and create a window for infiltration. Once inside, Spartans have successfully eliminated hardened targets in hostile environments hundreds of times. Lasky studied the stellar cartography data Cortana was compiling. The challenge is locating the flagship without alerting Anubis's fleet. If he detects Infinity's sensor sweeps, he'll know we're hunting him and go to ground. We need intelligence from sources he won't suspect are compromised. The Tok'ra, Carter suggested. They have operatives embedded throughout the System Lord's organizations. If Anubis is concentrating his fleet, Tok'ra intelligence will have tracked the movement. Jacob, my father, could provide the data without exposing his network. Hammond's expression showed the conflict between commander and protector. Major, you're suggesting we ask your father to provide intelligence that will send Spartans on what might be a one-way mission to assassinate the most dangerous Goa'uld in the galaxy. If this operation fails, Anubis will know we're actively hunting him, and he'll accelerate whatever timeline he's working on. If we don't act, he'll harvest UNSC technology and create super soldiers we'll have to fight for decades, Chief replied. Sir, I've spent 30 years conducting high-risk operations behind enemy lines. This mission profile is exactly what Spartans were designed for. Get us the intelligence, and we'll handle the rest. The System Lord Council's audio feed shifted as Anubis concluded his theatrical performance for the other Goa'uld. I will deal with the UNSC threat personally. When I return, it will be with their technology integrated into my forces and their warriors captured for study. Earth will fall, the Tauri will serve, and those system lords wise enough to ally with me will share in the spoils. Those who oppose me will be eliminated. The hologram disconnected, leaving the other system lords to debate whether to support or undermine Anubis's plans. Baal's expression suggested he was already calculating how to profit from whatever Anubis attempted, while Lord Yu's ancient eyes showed the weariness of someone who'd seen this pattern play out countless times across millennia. He's committed to action, Lasky observed, which means we need to move first. General Hammond, I'm formally requesting authorization to conduct offensive operations against Anubis's command structure. This goes beyond defensive protection of Earth. We're talking about preemptive strike to eliminate a threat before it can materialize. Hammond was silent for a long moment, the weight of command settling on shoulders that had carried it through years of impossible decisions. He'd sent soldiers to die before, authorized missions that might trigger intergalactic war, made choices that haunted him but that were necessary to protect Earth. This was another such choice. "Authorization granted," Hammond said finally. "Master Chief, you have permission to conduct black operations against Anubis with objective of eliminating his command capability. Major Carter, coordinate with the Tok'ra for intelligence. Captain Lasky, provide whatever support the Spartans need." And Colonel O'Neill. He looked at Jack with the expression of a commander who knew exactly what he was asking. "SG-1 will provide backup extraction if the operation goes sideways. Because it always goes sideways." "Indeed it does, sir," O'Neill replied. "Indeed it does." Chief turned to the blue team, and no words were necessary. They'd conducted assassination missions against Covenant leadership, infiltrated ships kilometers long, fought through enemy forces with no backup and no extraction guaranteed. This was just another mission, another target, another day being Spartans. "Cortana, begin operational planning," Chief ordered. "Find me Anubis's flagship. We're going hunting." In the shadows of space, Anubis's Ha'tak mothership prepared for war. Its master sat in meditation, channeling the half-ascended power that made him more than Goa'uld but less than ancient, contemplating the UNSC forces that had dared challenge his supremacy. He would dissect their Spartans, reverse engineer their technology, and prove once again that he was the rightmost heir to the ancients' legacy. He had no idea that humanity's most lethal soldiers were already planning his death, and by the time he realized the threat, it would be too late. The coordinates Jacob Carter provided through Tok'ra intelligence channels led to a system on the edge of controlled space, a binary star configuration that played havoc with long-range sensors and provided natural concealment for fleet concentrations. Anubis had chosen well. His flagship, a modified Ha'tak designated as the Abydos's bane in Goa'uld records, sat at the center of a defensive formation comprising 12 motherships, 40 Al-Kesh bombers, and enough death gliders to darken a planet's sky. The Pelican approached from the system's asteroid belt, its active camouflage engaged, and its reactor signature reduced to background radiation levels that Goa'uld sensors would dismiss as stellar noise. Chief stood in the troop bay with Blue Team, each Spartan conducting final equipment checks in the methodical silence of soldiers who'd done this hundreds of times. Their armor's active camouflage systems were set to maximum, their weapons loaded with ammunition optimized for close-quarters combat in shipboard environments, and their mission parameters were crystal clear. Infiltrate, locate Anubis, eliminate target, extract. "Cortana, status on shield penetration?" Chief asked, watching the tactical display show Anubis's flagship growing larger as the Pelican closed distance. The AI's avatar flickered with intense processing activity. "I've analyzed the shield harmonics from 12 different angles using Infinity's passive sensors. Goa'uld shields operate on rotating frequency modulation, impressive for their tech level, but they're cycling through predictable patterns. I can generate a counter frequency that will create a temporary gap lasting approximately 4.3 seconds. That's your insertion window. Ask. 4.3 seconds to get 4 Spartans through a shield that's designed to stop incoming fire, Fred observed. Tight, but doable. Story of our lives, Kelly added, checking her combat knife's edge with the casual efficiency of someone preparing for close-quarters violence. Linda remained silent, her sniper rifle secured across her back in favor of an MA-5D configured for suppressed fire. Shipboard combat meant close ranges where her long-range precision became less relevant, but her tactical awareness and ability to identify critical targets would be invaluable once they were inside. Captain Reyes's voice came through the intercom. "Spartans, we're at optimal insertion range. Anubis's fleet hasn't detected our approach. Their sensor focus is outward, watching for conventional attack vectors. They're not expecting someone crazy enough to fly a dropship through their defensive perimeter. That's because most people value their lives over mission objectives, O'Neill's voice interjected over the comm channel. He was aboard Infinity with SG-1, monitoring the operation from the safety of the battle fleet positioned 3 AU distant. For the record, I think this plan is insane. But since insane plans are pretty much our specialty, good hunting, Chief. Try not to blow up the entire fleet. We'd like to salvage some of those motherships after Anubis is dead. Understood, Colonel, Chief replied, then switched to Blue Team's private channel. Standard infiltration protocol. Cortana will guide us to Anubis's location. We eliminate any resistance between us and target, execute primary objective, and extract via same entry point. If extraction is compromised, we commandeer a Teltuck and fight our way clear. Questions? Teltuck. Rules of engagement? Linda asked. Anyone who gets between us and Anubis is hostile. Minimize casualties where possible, but mission success takes priority over enemy survivability. These are Anubis's hand-picked guards. They've chosen their side. The Pelican shuddered as it entered the outer range of Anubis's shield perimeter. Cortana's counter-frequency algorithm engaged, and Chief's HUD showed the shield matrix developing a small gap, barely 3 meters wide, lasting 4.3 seconds, positioned exactly where the Pelican would pass through if Reyes's piloting was perfect. It was perfect. The dropship slipped through the shield gap like a knife through silk, its hull missing the re-solidifying energy barrier by centimeters. Goa'uld sensor technicians aboard the surrounding motherships didn't even register the intrusion. Their instruments had been flooded with false data that Cortana generated to mask the Pelican's passage, making them see exactly what they expected: normal shield operations, no anomalies, no threat. Docking with flagship's ventilation system, Reyes reported. You've got access through maintenance shaft 7 beta. Goa'uld ships aren't designed with intrusion countermeasures for their environmental systems. They assume their shields and external defenses are sufficient. Their mistake. The Pelican's magnetic clamps engaged against the Ha'tak's hull with barely perceptible vibration. The Spartans moved to the airlock, their active camouflage rendering them nearly invisible even in the dropship's interior lighting. Chief triggered the hull breach, a shaped charge that burned through Goa'uld armor plating and exposed the ship's internal atmosphere to vacuum for exactly 1.2 seconds before emergency force fields sealed the hull breach. Blue Team dropped into the Ha'tak's maintenance systems, their armor's magnetic boots engaging to provide mobility in the zero-gravity environment. The shaft was narrow, designed for Jaffa maintenance crews. Not 7-foot armored soldiers, but Spartans had trained for insertion through spaces that logic said were impassable. They moved through the darkness with tactical precision, their motion trackers painting the ship's internal layout as Cortana hacked into the Ha'tak's computer network. Anubis's location confirmed, Cortana reported. He's in the throne room 3 decks above your position, surrounded by at least 20 Kull warriors and an unknown number of Jaffa guards. Also detecting energy signatures consistent with ancient technology integrated throughout the room. He's got defensive systems we haven't encountered before. Standard approach won't work, Fred assessed. 20 Kull warriors in prepared defensive positions means we'd be fighting through a meat grinder even with superior weapons. Chief, we need a different angle. Chief's tactical mind ran through options while his hands worked on opening an access panel that led toward the throne room. Direct assault was suicide. Stealth infiltration was compromised by the Kull warriors' sensor capabilities. Orbital bombardment was off the table with friendlies aboard. That left unconventional tactics hitting Anubis where he wouldn't expect attack. Cortana, can you access the ship's internal systems? Gravity, atmosphere, power distribution? The AI's avatar grinned with the expression of someone who'd just been asked to do something delightfully chaotic. Chief, are you thinking what I think you're thinking? Because if you're planning to cut life support to the throne room and force Anubis into a position where he's vulnerable, that's brilliant and terrifying in equal measure. The Kull warriors don't need atmosphere. Linda observed. They're sealed systems, but the Jaffa guards and any human support personnel will be affected. It'll create chaos we can exploit. Do it, Chief ordered. Cortana's infiltration of the Ha'tak systems was surgical. She isolated the throne room's environmental controls, rerouted power from non-essential systems, and triggered a cascading failure that made it look like battle damage from a weapons malfunction rather than sabotage. Alarms began wailing throughout the ship as atmosphere vented from the throne room, gravity fluctuated wildly, and emergency lighting kicked in to replace the main power systems. Blue Team moved through the chaos like armored ghosts. They emerged from maintenance shafts into corridors filled with Jaffa warriors rushing to respond to the emergency. Their staff weapons raised, but their attention focused on the apparent crisis rather than the nearly invisible soldiers moving through their ranks. Chief's combat knife claimed 2 guards before they realized they were under attack. Linda's suppressed rifle dropped 3 more with headshots that were silent enough to avoid raising general alarm, and Kelly disabled a Kull warrior's power systems with a thermite charge applied directly to its back-mounted core. The throne room's entrance lay ahead massive doors carved with Goa'uld hieroglyphs depicting Anubis's claimed divinity. Through his armor's sensors, Chief detected the half-ascended being beyond, his energy signature blazing like a beacon that made normal Goa'uld look like candles beside a sun. This was the target. Everything else was obstacle. "Breaching," Fred announced, slapping a shaped charge on the door's locking mechanism. The explosion tore through Goa'uld metallurgy and sent the doors slamming inward, revealing the throne room beyond. Anubis sat upon his throne, a figure cloaked in black robes that concealed his half-ascended form, his hands gripping armrests that integrated ancient control systems. The throne room's floor was littered with Jaffa guards struggling in the zero-gravity and thin atmosphere, their training inadequate for environmental failure. Kull warriors stood at attention around the throne, their sealed armor unaffected by the life support failure, their shoulder cannons tracking toward the breach point. "Intruders," Anubis's dual-toned voice resonated through the chamber, amplified by technology and power that transcended normal Goa'uld capabilities. "You dare assault my flagship? I am beyond your mortal weapons, beyond death itself. You cannot kill what has already ascended." Chief didn't bother responding. Spartans weren't known for dramatic speeches. They were known for completing missions. Blue Team opened fire. The Kull warriors returned fire with staff cannons that tore through the throne room with plasma blasts hot enough to melt bulkheads. Chief's shields flared and held, absorbing impacts while he advanced with his assault rifle, delivering controlled bursts that exploited the weak points in Kull armor. Fred flanked right, his grenades detonating among the warriors with concussive force that disrupted their formations. Kelly became a blur of motion in the zero-gravity, using the environment to her advantage as she bounced between surfaces and struck from impossible angles. Linda's rifle cracked with precision that turned Kull power cores into catastrophic failures. Anubis rose from his throne, and the ancient technology integrated into the room responded to his will. Energy barriers sprang into existence, channeling the Spartans' movements into kill zones. Automated defense turrets emerged from the walls, their weapons tracking with ancient precision that made Goa'uld targeting look primitive. The half-ascended being raised his hands, and power crackled between his fingers, not staff weapon plasma, but something that resonated with the ascension energy of beings who'd transcended physical form. The blast struck Chief Center Mass with force that overloaded his shields instantly and sent him slamming into the bulkhead hard enough to dent the armor plating. His HUD lit up with damage warnings, shields down, armor integrity at 70%, medical systems reporting bruised ribs and minor internal bleeding. He'd survived worse. "Your armor is impressive," Anubis observed, approaching with the confidence of a being who believed himself invincible. "Your weapons exceed Goa'uld standards. Your tactics demonstrate training beyond anything the Tauri should possess. I will enjoy dissecting you to discover your secrets, Spartan. You will serve me in death as you refused to serve in life. Chief's hand closed around a plasma grenade UNSC ordnance designed to combat Covenant energy shields, now repurposed against a half-ascended Goa'uld who'd forgotten that hubris killed more surely than any weapon. Cortana, target analysis. His ascension energy is concentrated in his upper torso, probably where he's maintaining the connection between his physical and energy forms, the AI replied instantly. A disruption to that concentration might force him to choose between maintaining physical manifestation or ascending fully, and full ascension would trigger ancient rules that prohibit interference. Chief, if you can hit him hard enough, you might force him to abandon this form. Good enough. Chief threw the plasma grenade. Anubis raised his hand dismissively, expecting to deflect the primitive explosive with ascension power. The grenade detonated 3 meters from him, and superheated plasma expanded outward at temperatures that briefly mimicked stellar fusion. The energy didn't just burn, it disrupted, interfering with the delicate balance Anubis maintained between matter and energy, between Goa'uld and ancient, between physical god and ascended being. The half-ascended Goa'uld screamed a sound that transcended normal acoustics and resonated on frequencies that made Chief's armor sensors spike with warnings. Anubis's form flickered, the black robes revealing glimpses of the twisted amalgamation beneath, flesh and energy warring for dominance as the plasma disruption forced him to choose. He chose wrong. Anubis tried to maintain physical form and channel ascension energy simultaneously. The strain broke something fundamental in his hybrid existence. His body began to dissolve, not into pure energy like successful ascension, but into a chaotic mess of matter and force that screamed violation of natural law. Linda's sniper rifle spoke once a single 14.5 millimeters round that crossed the throne room and struck Anubis's physical form in what remained of his head. The round didn't kill a half-ascended being, but it didn't need to. It provided the final disruption that shattered Anubis's concentration completely. The Goa'uld's physical form exploded into energy that cascaded through the throne room with force that sent Kull warriors flying and tore ancient systems from the walls. Where Anubis had stood, only smoking robes remained, and a fading energy signature that suggested the being had been forcibly ascended incomplete, damaged, and likely subject to ancient judgment for his violations of ascension protocols. Target eliminated, Chief reported, his voice calm despite the chaos. Blue team, extract now. Team. The Spartans fought their way back through corridors filled with Jaffa warriors who'd realized their god was gone and their ship was falling apart. Without Anubis's control, the ancient systems integrated throughout the Ha'tak began failing catastrophically, their power feeds destabilizing and cascading through the vessel's infrastructure. The Pelican was waiting at the breach point, Reyes maintaining position despite Goa'uld forces finally realizing they'd been infiltrated. Blue team reached the dropship and scrambled aboard as the Ha'tak's power core began its terminal overload sequence. The Pelican's engines flared, ripping the craft away from the dying mothership as Cortana spoofed the shield harmonics one final time to create an exit vector. Behind them, Anubis's flagship exploded in a cascade of energy that would have been visible from planetary orbit. The surrounding Goa'uld fleet dissolved into chaos as commanders fought to assert control, claim leadership, or simply flee from what their sensors reported as an impossible catastrophe. Aboard Infinity, the war room erupted in controlled celebration as telemetry confirmed the mission's success. Hammond's expression showed relief warring with disbelief that 4 soldiers had just assassinated the most dangerous being in the galaxy. O'Neill was grinning like someone who'd just watched the impossible become reality. Carter was already analyzing the data, her scientific mind cataloging everything they'd learned about ancient technology and half-ascended beings. The Pelican docked with Infinity, and Blue Team emerged to find themselves greeted by personnel who looked at Spartans with new understanding. These weren't just enhanced soldiers. These were the people you sent when gods needed killing. Chief removed his helmet and met Hammond's eyes. "Mission accomplished, sir. Anubis is eliminated." "Master Chief," Hammond said simply, "you just changed the balance of power in this galaxy. The system lords are going to tear themselves apart, fighting over Anubis's territory. The Jaffa Rebellion just lost their greatest enemy, and Earth just proved that humanity can stand against beings who claim divinity." "It's what we do, sir," Chief replied. "Spartans don't believe in gods. We believe in completing the mission." And across the galaxy, the Goa'uld system lords heard the news and felt fear for the first time in millennia. Sualness that hid sharp tactical thinking. "We've been watching your people work for 3 weeks now. The way your Spartans integrated with the Jaffa, how your fleet coordinates with our satellites and defense platforms, the respect Lasky shows for our operational experience, even though his technology is centuries ahead, that builds trust faster than any formal agreement. You're not conquerors, you're allies who actually mean it." Carter pulled up sensor data on the main display. "The real question is what happens next. Anubis is gone, but the Goa'uld aren't defeated. Baal is consolidating power, and he's smarter than most system lords. He'll adapt to UNSC capabilities instead of blindly attacking. The Ori invasion that our intelligence suggests is coming will make the Goa'uld look like a minor nuisance, and we still don't know what pulled your fleet through that anomaly or whether more forces might follow." "The Ori concern me," Daniel added, adjusting his glasses in that nervous gesture that meant he'd been researching something disturbing. "They're ascended beings, like the ancients, but they've weaponized faith itself. Their priors can perform miracles that look like magic, but are actually advanced manipulation of reality. Their ships are nearly indestructible, and they're coming to this galaxy with the explicit goal of converting or exterminating every human civilization they encounter." Chief's tactical mind engaged with the threat assessment, running simulations against an enemy that possessed technology beyond conventional physics. Cortana, analysis on combating ascended beings. Limited data, but preliminary assessment suggests ascended beings operate under strict rules about interference in lower planes, the AI replied. Anubis broke those rules and got forcibly judged for it. The Ori circumvent the rules by working through mortal agents, their priors, and their human followers. If we can disrupt their mortal infrastructure, we might be able to slow their invasion without directly engaging the ascended Ori themselves. Teal'c had been silent throughout the briefing, but his voice carried weight when he finally spoke. "The Jaffa Free Nation owes a debt to the UNSC that can never be fully repaid. Master Chief and the Spartans fought beside us, proved that the false gods could be defeated, and inspired warriors across the galaxy to claim their freedom. When the Ori come, and they will, the Jaffa will stand with Earth and the UNSC against this new threat." Ha'tak appeared via holographic communication, the ancient warrior's image transmitted from a liberated world where he was coordinating Jaffa military forces. Indeed, young Teal'c speaks truth. "The Free Jaffa have fought for generations to free our people from slavery. We will not surrender that freedom to new gods, ascended or otherwise. Master Chief, when you have need of Jaffa warriors, you need only call. We will answer." Costa. Fred, Kelly, and Linda stood at attention near Chief, their presence a silent reminder that Blue Team remained ready for whatever mission came next. They'd eliminated Anubis, survived combat against Kull warriors, and proven that Spartans could operate effectively in a galaxy that ran on ancient technology and impossible physics. But their expressions showed what every veteran soldier knew: one victory didn't mean the war was over. "The spatial anomaly that brought us here remains unexplained," Lasky observed, bringing the conversation back to the fundamental mystery of UNSC presence in this reality. "Our scientists have been studying the wormhole signatures, and they believe it was artificially created using technology that exceeds even ancient capabilities. Someone or something wanted us here, positioned us specifically to arrive during a crisis point, and gave us the opportunity to fundamentally alter this galaxy's political structure. The ancients? Carter suggested. They're ascended. They have the power to manipulate reality on that scale, and they have a history of subtle manipulation when they think it serves the greater good. Or something older, Daniel countered. The ancients aren't the first evolution. There were civilizations before them, races that ascended and moved beyond even that state. What if something truly ancient decided humanity needed reinforcements and reached across dimensional barriers to provide them? Chief considered that possibility, while his tactical instincts flagged it as speculation beyond available data. The why of their arrival mattered less than the reality they now faced. UNSC forces were in a new galaxy, surrounded by allies who needed them and enemies who threatened human survival. It was a situation Spartans understood at a fundamental level. Regardless of how we got here, Chief said, we're here now. The UNSC will honor our commitments to Earth's defense and the alliance we've built with the Tok'ra, Jaffa, and Asgard. When the Ori arrive, they'll find humanity ready, united across dimensions, armed with the combined technology of multiple civilizations, and led by soldiers who've spent decades learning how to fight enemies that claim divinity. Hammond's expression showed something that might have been hope. Master Chief, 3 weeks ago, I was commanding a facility that defended Earth through desperation and luck, always one crisis away from extinction. Today, I'm part of an alliance that spans galaxies and includes the most advanced military force humanity has ever produced. The Goa'uld are collapsing, the Jaffa are free, and when the Ori come, we'll face them together. I don't know what force brought you here, but I'm grateful it did. Cortana's avatar smiled with the warmth that made her more than just artificial intelligence. General, we're grateful too. The UNSC spent 3 decades fighting the Covenant with a constant fear that humanity's next day might be its last. Here, we have the chance to prevent that fate for another branch of humanity, to build something better than just survival. That's worth fighting for. O'Neill stood, his casual demeanor giving way to the serious commander beneath. All right, people, the system lords are killing each other. The Jaffa are liberating worlds. End. And we've got approximately 6 months before the Ori show up with their sanctimonious ascended attitude and their ships that make Ha'taks look like toys. I suggest we spend that time integrating UNSC technology with our existing defenses, training joint operations between SG teams and Spartan units, and preparing to introduce our new friends to the ancient human tradition of making gods regret picking fights with us. The briefing concluded with personnel dispersing to their assignments, Carter to coordinate with UNSC engineers on technology integration, Daniel to compile intelligence on Ori capabilities and weaknesses, Teal'c to serve as liaison with the Free Jaffa, and O'Neill to command SG-1 the field operations that would continue regardless of larger strategic shifts. Chief remained in the briefing room with Blue Team, reviewing mission parameters that Cortana compiled from multiple sources. There would be more gates to step through, more enemies to face, more missions where impossible odds demanded Spartan solutions. The galaxy was vast, filled with threats that ranged from parasitic false gods to ascended beings with armies at their command. But as Chief looked at his team soldiers who'd stood with him through 30 years of war, through the fall of Reach and the battle for Earth, through every impossible mission that had forged the legend of Spartans, he felt something that might have been confidence. They'd faced extinction before and survived. They'd fought enemies with superior technology and won. They'd eliminated beings that claimed godhood and proven that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or firepower. It was the refusal to surrender, even when survival seemed impossible. The Stargate's chevrons would lock again, opening paths to new worlds and new challenges. The UNSC fleet would stand watch over Earth, ready to defend humanity's home, regardless of which timeline it came from. And somewhere in the galaxy, enemies that had terrorized civilizations for millennia would learn what the Covenant had learned before them. That when humanity decided to fight, When soldiers like the Spartans stood together with allies willing to risk everything for freedom, even gods could fall. The mission continued. The war wasn't over. But for the first time, in longer than Chief could remember, humanity wasn't fighting alone. The integration of UNSC forces into the Stargate universe had fundamentally altered the balance of power in ways that rippled across the galaxy. Master Chief and Blue Team's assassination of Anubis removed the most immediate existential threat while demonstrating that even half-ascended beings could be defeated through superior tactics and coordination. The alliance forged between UNSC Command, Stargate Command, the Free Jaffa Nation, the Tok'ra Resistance, and the Asgard represented a unified human coalition unprecedented in the galaxy's history. As the Goa'uld system lords tore themselves apart fighting over Anubis's territories, Earth consolidated its position as a protected world backed by military capabilities that exceeded anything the parasitic false gods could counter. The Jaffa Rebellion gained momentum, with each world liberated, their warriors inspired by proof that gods could bleed and die. The Tok'ra found their infiltration missions easier, as system lords became paranoid about UNSC intervention, dividing their attention between external threats and internal betrayals. But greater challenges awaited on the horizon. The Ori Crusade loomed ascended beings, with armies of faithful followers and weapons that could sterilize worlds. The mystery of the anomaly that brought UNSC forces across dimensional barriers remained unsolved, suggesting powers that operated beyond even ancient comprehension. And somewhere in the vast darkness between galaxies, other threats stirred, ancient and patient, watching humanity's ascension with interest that boded neither good nor ill. Master Chief stood ready for whatever came next, his Spartans at his side and allies spanning galaxies backing Earth's defense. The mission parameters had changed from simple survival to something more ambitious, not just defending humanity, but building a future where human civilization could thrive across multiple realities. It was a mission without clear endpoint, a war that might last generations, but it was a mission worth fighting. The Stargate's chevrons would continue to lock, opening paths to new worlds where threats and opportunities waited in equal measure. The UNSC fleet would patrol the vast distances between stars, guardians of a Earth that belonged to two timelines simultaneously. And through it all, soldiers from both realities would stand together, proving that humanity's greatest strength had never been technology or firepower. It was the bonds forged in battle and the absolute refusal to abandon allies who needed them. The galaxy had learned a new truth. Earth was no longer a primitive world ripe for conquest. It was a defended fortress, backed by warriors who'd fought the impossible and won. The system lords, the Ori, and whatever threats emerged from the darkness would find humanity waiting, united, prepared, and absolutely unwilling to surrender.